Yeah.
Sweet, yes.
We've been trying to go live for like 15 minutes now, so we're excited to have you joining us here. I am Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here at Bat City Comic Professionals with my buddy and co-host Phil, aka Wednesday Phil.
You can just call me Phil. I'm not going to be offended.
I'm going to call you Philip, but I'm going to say it weird every time.
I just always felt like I wouldn't be Phil until I was like in my 40s.
Yeah.
You know, like once, like the day I turned 40, I officially have to change my name to Phil.
That's funny. I would have thought you would have thought about it the other way around.
Same.
Like Phil, and then like as an
Really?
adult, I'm Philip. I'm like
Right.
distinguished gentleman Philip.
Well, I think it was just because of Fresh Prince. It was Uncle
Uncle
Phil.
Phil.
I just assumed that Phil was an older. Like all the Phils that I knew growing up were old.
Like Phil Hartman
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I get
They're
that.
all adults. So I was like, no, I'm not old until I become Phil.
Until you become a Phil.
Until I accept that Phil is my name.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, Phil, whatever you want to be.
Let's
I'm
just
going to
go
keep
Phil.
growing
Let's just
with
go with
all
Philly
of
boy.
them.
Let's
No,
just go with
right.
it.
What did we, 50 Shades of Phil, whatever we're going to call you. How are you this week? What's going on?
I'm doing all right. It's kind of a slow week for me. This is the down portion of the ebbs and flows of my life. So I guess that means I'm ebbing? No, it feels more like a flow. I think I'm flowing. So between ebbs and flows, I think I'm flowing. And it's a nice, just kind of, like lazy river, kind of floating along, just doing the bare minimum that's required of me as an adult in this world.
I'm here for it. All right. That's a good way to be, especially in the summer, it's hot. You just want to chill.
This heat,
Especially you. I know you work in a food trailer, so.
it is super hot.
Yeah, I can't
I lose
imagine.
at least 10 pounds in sweat. It's wonderful.
Well, congratulations, I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know. Don't waste away. We want to
That-
keep you.
Oh, I use that as an excuse to continue eating all
There you
that
go.
candy and stuff.
All
Where
the
it's like,
food
well,
that you make there.
yeah, all the bread that I'm eating. So
That's fair. We are winding down 2 weekends. We are going to wind down this weekend and last weekend, which means that we've got 2 weeks of comics and 2
6
bottles of wine.
hours of a show tonight.
Get ready. Get your
Buckle
drinks.
down.
Get prepared. Here we go. We're going to start off. I'm not kidding. We do have 2 bottles of wine just in case. We don't really plan on going 6 hours, but we do have 2 bottles of wine because we have a studio audience tonight. So if you hear comments from the Peanut Gallery, that is Nigel, a.k.a. the Keymaster, who we can't guarantee won't pop up in the middle of the show, or at least you will definitely hear him making comments.
I might pop up.
He might
Little
pop up.
magic trick.
We're gonna do this puppet thing that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
You just stick your hand up my shirt. It's the most uncomfortable thing ever.
Just wrap my hand around your neck.
This is going to go well. This is going to go really well.
You haven't even started drinking yet.
No, tonight we are drinking Bar Dog, which is a red wine from California. It's a 2019, and it is considered man's best friend. It's all about like people who love their dogs and set out like wine bars and develop their own like red blend. But the coolest part is that every year they donate a percentage of the proceeds to animal rescue. So super cool. So we're gonna try Bar Dog. I have not tried it. I know you said you just did. So what do you think?
It's good. It's a bit more subtle. I like it when it's not an overpowering flavor, and this is very subtle to me.
So
I like it though.
Maybe red blends are a place where we need to put you because that's kind of what they are. They're just like all the different reds mixed together. Whatever the grapes kind of do. I'm gonna hand that.
So does that mean like I could go to the wine store and pour like a Cab Sav with a Tempranillo and a bit, and that's what over
They
red
will
blend is?
totally appreciate it if you go into a wine store and do that yourself. No,
So someone
yes.
give me an empty bottle.
Essentially, that is what that is. So it's like all the grapes that they grow for the different wines. They take all of them that are left and then they like blend it into one wine.
That's super rebellious. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. It's anarchy. Anarchy
That's
of
great.
wines. We've got a lot of comics to talk about. I did not actually bring everything that I wanted to talk about into the talking about section, but we're going to talk about some hot new titles. We've got a lot of new number ones and a lot of series or volumes ending. So we're going to kick off with just a couple that are in their like number 2 midsection kind of spot on the comics, and then we'll jump into those. So let's kick it off with some vampires with Bloodstained Teeth.
Yes. A title that has Christian Ward's name on the cover, and he's not even doing the art. This is a story about Atticus Sloane, who spent his years as a vampire getting paid to basically turn other people into vampires. And if you're turned into a vampire by another vampire, you are referred to as a SIP, S-I-P. And so basically in the first issue, we find out that he has to go basically kill all of his SIPs. Because they're like, hey, you're messing with the balance and the flow of things. You can't keep doing this. So that is his mission, and he has a short amount of time to do it. And so we get in this issue the first SIP he decides to go up against, which happens to be an MMA fighter.
Yeah, I was like, issue 2, you're coming out strong. No pun really intended, but because he's going after the strongest character that they say that he's created. And he's just like, oh, this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to go from issue 2, I'm going to just go with the biggest and baddest. And at least you think that. And then he's like, actually, this isn't going to be the worst that we're going to see. This is going to get way worse for everybody. And I'm curious how long this is going to go, because, like, how is this going to be an Image miniseries? Is it going to be an ongoing? Because this is one of those, it could go either way, and with Image, you never know if it's going to be an ongoing or not. So I'm really curious about how long he's going to be on this mission, but I love the humor in issue 2.
Yes, yeah. So they find out that the MMA fighter is eating cows to keep being fed with blood and not getting out of hand with humans. And there's a great part that after he kills this SIP, he goes and tells a cow, he's like, all right, well, go on cowing or whatever it is that you do. I think, based off of what Christian Ward has done in the past, I feel like it's going to be a mini-series.
Or like a 12.
Yeah, you don't ever really see his name on any, like, long-running, ongoing series. So I would assume, anywhere from, like, 10 to 12 issues for this. Because, again, I mean, like, how far can you really take this? Like, once he kills all his SIPs, then what?
Right, he's going to have to go against the vampire, like, bigwigs and, like, start a rebellion that you can believe in. Like, you can make whatever vampires you want. But BJ said the colors on this are intense, and this is so true. They are such a vibrant book. It's kind of surprising to me that it's not Christian Ward on all the art when you look at it, but I guess, like, kind of dictating wanting to see something similar to that.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed the art on this book. There is a lot of vampire books. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of fatigue. But if there was a small list of vampire books that I would recommend, this would be on there.
Yeah, this is definitely on there. And then for me, going with the vampire, I wanted to keep that. Going with the vampire is the one that I would definitely, one of the other ones I definitely recommend would be Cult of Icarus. This is issue 3 from Scout. And we actually see a real fleshing out of the plot.
Yes.
This time. We've kind of had like you've got a young girl who's something special, but we don't know what, and vampires are chasing her, but vampires are also helping her, and then you've got your watcher who runs the bookstore, who is like, oh, I've been in charge of watching your life, your parents died, you're something special, we can't tell you what it is, though, and she's got this rock star vampire who's kind of watching over her.
She's so awesome, by the way.
Super
Such
cool.
a cool character.
I love her, and this is a great, like, spilling out of what we're actually seeing. We actually get that exposition, which I kind of like that they didn't throw all the expositions in issues 1 and 2, because you kind of got into all of the action and the characters before you got all the backstory. And now we know a lot more about the Cult of Icarus. We know why they're afraid of her. We see what she can do a little bit, and why it really matters. And so this is definitely one of those books to watch from Scout right now.
I completely agree. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I think the art in this book is spectacular. I like the pacing of it, because one of the things, and I kind of think I'm going to talk about this here in a bit, of where it's like you want to throw everything at us in the first issue, and I feel like they've kind of like slowly built it out over 3 issues instead of like, here's everything in your face. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I like the world building. I like a lot of the characters. That we get to see throughout all of this. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like this is this is one of the ones I'd want to see turned into like a TV show.
Absolutely, this would be a good one for that. Yeah, and I can't wait to see more as this cult unfolds and we learn more about all this backstory, because there's characters being introduced in issue 3 that I'm like, ooh, you're gonna be cool when you get there. Like, and I just need to know who you are.
Yeah.
Frank said Scout's really up and coming, and it's true. If you're not paying attention to Scout as a publisher, to really keep your eye on, especially with Black Caravan getting its own, like the imprint getting its own section in the previews catalog now. And there's a bunch of Scout books that we're going to be talking about tonight, because they've got a lot that's coming for them. And if you're a fan of fantasy in any capacity, like Scout's going to have a book for you. If you're a fan of horror in any capacity, Scout's going to have a book for you. And then they do have a lot of those just like fun action kind of stories. So there's something for pretty much everybody at Scout.
Their kids line.
Oh, Scoot is so good.
I mean, Scout has been wonderful, and it's going to be fun to watch that continue to rise.
Yeah, I had my second kid named Juniper come in today.
Oh gosh.
And there is a Scoot title called Juniper, and I love being able to give this book to kids named Juniper and be like, look, you actually have a book about a kid like you. Like, we never see, you never see Juniper characters, so it's super cool.
I had a similar story with a drag queen at work one night, but I couldn't say that it was a kid like you. But I was like, yo, this book has the same character name as you. And I was like, you should check it out. You should read it. And they were like, okay.
Well, here, let's just do this let's just put these in this order to keep going with vampires for a minute. Little Monsters issue 4. This is Jeff Lemire's answer to the vampire surge that's going on right now. And of course, because it is Jeff Lemire, it's not anything like anybody else is doing. We've got a group of little kids who have all been turned into vampires and have been left in a society where they've been led to believe that there are no humans left. And they've been taught from day one to just feed off of animals and to not really experience, that there are no humans and never to taste human blood. And one day one of them comes across a human and ends up drinking the human's blood, and then brings all the other kids to taste this blood of the human. And you get kind of, now we're starting to see we're in issue 4 at this point, so we're seeing our team kind of split apart, because there's those who are like, oh, I really want to, like, I want more, I want to experience this, and then, like, they're never, the vampires are never coming back for us, like, we're on our own, we might as well do what we want. And then you have the kids who are like, hey, we should protect the people, we should make sure we stay true to who we are. And it's just, of course, Jeff Lemire has to make it this story of your humanity, because that is what a vampire conversation should include. And Jeff Lemire is like, hey, let's really focus on that idea of humanity and how fickle it is in all of us, and how we could easily, like, he even talks about, like, once you turn it off, there's really no way to bring it back on. And, like, no matter what you do, like, once you unleash this rage and this nature inside of you, like, you can't really go back. And he talks about that in this issue a lot, and it's such a great book. It is on that short list of vampire books you have to read for sure, because you always get the Jeff Lemire alternative to the theme of the year.
Yeah, and again, that's a win on art. This is one I don't think you can miss. Jeff Lemire is, I think, in that top tier of writers right now, where it's like anything that's going to be put out by him is going to be usually fantastic. And
should have gotten an Eisner nom, especially for Mace book, but I'm going to keep saying that
for
the next 3 months.
We didn't have that conversation.
We did not.
I did not realize that.
Jeff Lemire did not get nominated for Best Writer, nor did May's book get nominated for Best Book. And May's book was one of the most beautiful books of last year.
Yeah.
And just in general, and the fact that it's not nominated. We also didn't talk about the fact that Animal Castle, which did start in 2021, was not nominated as Best Foreign Book.
Wow.
Adapted into English, and I am going to be watching those Eisner nominations next year so carefully to see if Animal Castle does end up on it, because that is a shame if it's not, because that is a literary masterpiece.
I could see it maybe next year.
It better.
Yeah.
Shadow Service is back. This is issue 12 from Vault, and it's actually issue 2 of this volume, which is volume 3. This is a place that you could actually jump in if you wanted to. This is a very long running title for Vault.
I'm surprised that it's still going.
Yeah, we are 3 volume. This is the 3rd volume of a Vault title, which is super cool to see. And this is, they always call it, the joke in the book is that it's MI666 because it's witches and demons and ghosts and ghouls all kind of fighting witches and demons and ghosts and ghouls in England. So it's their MI6, but they're all mythical, like supernatural creatures, so they make the joke, which of course like they hate, but this has gotten really, really deep and beautiful because our main character for the last 2 arcs has not known like where she comes from and who she really is, but she has all this witchcraft, and so we're finally starting to see them kind of let her explore that, and the connections that she's making with other people are starting to have certain kinds of impact. And so it's been such a great book. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend volumes 1 and 2. But it's a fun story. You get a little bit of action. You get a lot of like magic and things. If you're a fan of black magic, this is a little lighter version of that. Whereas the black magic from Nicholas Scott and Greg Rucka is like super detective and super like you have to know your witchcraft to know some of the things they're talking about sometimes. This is like the lighter, like action movie, but still like emotional journey at the same time kind of version of it. Super great. You should read it.
I've read the first volume because I picked it up in trade when it came out, and I did enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But I kind of assumed being a Vault title, we would be done with it by now. So
I am surprised when it came back. I was like, well, we're still going. This is fantastic news for me.
That's cool, though. I mean, I'd like to see more titles from Vault continue to turn into ongoing.
Yeah. Vault also is re-releasing, this is from the Vault Reserve, which is the Vault of Vault, essentially. One of their very first titles, Heathen. This is issue 4 of the Reserve issue. So if you've already read Heathen back when it was like first released 5 years ago from Vault, you may know what the story is about. If you don't, it is all about a young woman who is a Viking warrior. And she's she's excommunicated from her tribe because she realizes that she is in love with a woman. And she gets caught kissing the other girl. And so they kick her out of the tribe. And her dad is like, I'll take her to her death, essentially. And it's just like, go find somebody you love. Be happy. Be free. Don't come back. Like, I'm not going to kill you. I would never do that. I want you to be happy. And, like, sets his daughter free from the tribe. And so she decides she's going to go and save this Valkyrie who has been trapped on a rock of fire by Odin for centuries because she can't leave until she falls in love with the right person. And no man has been able to, like, pass this trial and tribulation. She gets up there in the first issue and she's like, so I made it up here and I just wanted to let you know, like, you're free to go. And she's like, I didn't want to actually, like, I'm not here to, like, marry you or anything. I just think that, like, it's stupid that no man has ever been able to rescue you. So here you go. And she's like, that's not really how it works. And so now they're in this whole, like, battle between, like, the Valkyries and Odin and just Viking tribes and everything. And it's such a female empowerment book because we just see all of these women just continuously be badass warriors. Like, I love watching these Valkyrie and this young girl, like, both just say, like, just go up against these men who are like, you can't do that. And they're like, watch me. And in this particular issue, the long-trapped Valkyrie is now free. And there's a bunch of people who are going to, like, drown a girl because they say she's a witch. And she just walks into the middle of it. And she was like, excuse me, you're going to do what? Like, I will kill you all right now. Like, you're not going to do anything to this girl. She's not a witch. Y'all are idiots. That's not what witches do. Calm down, or I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love this book so much.
Yeah, I remember that being very much like a cooler version of, like, Xena Warrior Princess.
It is very Xena feeling.
You know, I definitely got those vibes when I was reading this. And I love that they're putting this book out again because I feel like it fits perfectly with the narrative in comics now as it did much more when it was coming out.
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of cool. I enjoy these nice foil covers. There's some cool bonus material in the back as well.
And they have already released the, like, complete series as a trade. So if you're like, oh, I just want to buy that complete series, they did already release that. You can get the trade, but if you want to get the foiled covers and reread it as it's coming out, you are able to get these. So they are doing both, which is cool that you have the extended version option, or you can just buy the trade.
I remember the trade was out of print for a bit.
Yes, and it is back now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and there are some on our shelf if you need it. All right, we got some number 2s. First up from Aftershock is a Naughty List number 2. This is the story of the man who became known as Santa Claus going after a bunch of pedophiles and sex traffickers. It's fantastic. Santa Claus is totally going to kill all of them. He's doing all his own investigation. He's using all of his tools of, like, Santa Clausiness. But he's completely different than what you imagine. He's a guy who just made a wish upon a star that he could help all the kids in his community. And now that has grown to, because he didn't say in my community, he was like, I just want to help all the kids. And so the star's kind of like monkey's paw thing of it all is now he can't die and he has to make toys for kids forever. And it's a super great book. It is an action movie, like 100%. But it's such a cool concept, and I love seeing the Santa Claus like run into like racetracks and like shaking people down. Like, where are they? And it's like, this is Santa Claus. This is fantastic.
I feel like this is a movie that I would want to see like Bruce Willis or Liam Neeson be in.
Not Nick Cage. I assumed you would automatically go Nick Cage.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe Nick Cage.
Right, that's your dude, and it's such a ridiculous concept on paper that Nick Cage could totally do it. It is so good. I'm like, don't get me wrong when I say it's a ridiculous concept. This book is actually like super good.
He sticks a candy cane up a dude's nose.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
He's like, you don't want to know where the candy cane will go next if you don't like answer my questions. Like, it's great. Gosh.
Yeah, this was one that I missed the first issue. I was gone that live stream, and so I didn't get a chance to read it, but I definitely want to now.
And Matt thanks you for that because he did get to read it and he loved it. So and that's going in his read file.
Glad I could do something while I was gone.
British Paranormal Society issue 2. This is from Dark Horse. This is all in that, Dark Horse, Hellboy world of things. But this is super cool. You don't have to have any knowledge of BRPD or Hellboy or anything like that to understand this. This is, honestly and truthfully, this feels like episodes of Doctor Who. And like one long episode of Doctor Who, I guess I should say. And it is a man and a woman from the British Paranormal Society are in a small town, and his assistant has gone missing. So he's come with her, this woman is investigating a cult. And he's investigating the disappearance of his assistant, and it just happens that it's in the same place, so they're on this mission together. And the longer they're there, the weirder things get. And it kind of feels like the beginning of Hot Fuzz, where all the, like, weird stuff is happening, and every time, like, they go to talk to people in the town, like, the town, like, is super weird altogether about it. But if Hot Fuzz was actually a horror movie, it would be more like that. So it's been a lot of fun. It's Andrea Muti on art, which is really interesting because he doesn't do the coloring. Yeah. So the coloring it almost makes you not recognize that it's Andrea Muti art.
And that was something I had to look at because I opened this book and I saw Andrea Muti's name and I was like, this is not Andrea Muti art. But if you do look at it, it
very much is.
Is.
It's just the coloring makes such a difference on how Muti's art actually looks.
It's crazy how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah, so, when we don't list the colorist on books when we nominate them for Eisners, just think about how much that impacts them. Because that is insane on the difference between that. But this book is a lot of fun, and it's a great, like, if you're just into those classic horror stories of, like, wait, we're, like, investigating this cult, and, like, we're sneaking into the back of the building to, like, find out, and, oh, no, like, the priest is coming, and you're in the back room of the church, and you're looking at all this stuff, and, like, you even get the scenes where it's, like, the slow open of the door, and then they're like, wait, and then you, like, see them turn back, and so it is very storyboarded almost for a classic horror movie, but it's super good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it feel like there's any ties to Hellboy at all?
No.
Okay.
None at all. None at all.
It's just weird that they put that up there. I'm assuming is a selling point.
Yeah, they constantly let you know that things are in the Hellboy universe, but then they don't. You're going to have to look at this book page by page on your side before you turn it, because there's a lot of nudity in it.
Oh, sweet.
But this is Buzzard and Bone, issue 2 from Source Point Press, and this is all about two magical families who are kind of in like a Hatfield-McCoy kind of rivalry between each other. And of course that means you get your Romeo and Juliet story where the young woman marries the young man from the other side and they have a kid, and then their kid gets his magic. And this is the issue where he is going to the local witch in the woods. He's trying to find a witch in the woods to help him figure out how to understand the words of his grimoire. And it turns crazy fast. Like the setup that like the witch does on him and the things that happen to him that he has to go through to open up his magic is intense in a lot of different directions. And the most intense things we can't show you on the live stream because there's like that right there. But like which
is a bummer because his art is
it's such a cool scene, and I know you can't show it.
I was not expecting this.
But it was a cool story, and I think Matt brought it up that it's kind of like some of the magic kind of almost feels Harry Potter-esque, where they just like shoot spells at people and like you just see the colors flying by. It does kind of have that feel to it, but this is the one that's lettered by letter squids, which you were like, I'm going to change my name to something cool like that.
Well, I mean, I like that these companies are kind of popping up with these cool names, you know, and they're taking on some of these tasks, because the other one's like And World, which I think is also just a cool name.
Yeah.
I like the art on this. It's a bummer we can't show more of it because there's some really cool pages.
Yeah,
in there.
come in if you want to see the art.
Yeah.
Broken Eye issue 2 from Scout Comics. You got any notes before I jump in on this?
I will let you go first.
Okay, so Broken Eye, to give you the quick rundown of what it is I described it to you as like I felt like I was reading like an In Bruges kind of spy thriller. Kind of, but like also not at the same time. But you've got one guy who's kind of trying to stop some bad things from happening, and then you got the two guys who are we're just henchmen, we're paid to do this, we got to do this job. And then you got your crime lords who are trying to get stuff. I mean, it's all that like mafia kind of story, except it's in Ireland. And so it's like British and Irish and all of that kind of worlds colliding. I guess last time it's in Liverpool. Yes. It's in Liverpool. Yeah, it's not in Ireland. It's just they're Irish guys in Liverpool.
Yeah, this was, I feel like, further, because I think the big thing for me in the first issue was I was very confused by some of the storyline. And I feel like that just kind of continued here, where there's so many moments where I'm like, wait, what's going on again? Who are these people? Why are they important to the story? Yeah. Also, when is this eye thing?
This is a hard one to jump back into and remember what happened in issue 1. I will say, like, I would recommend buying 1 and 2 together if you haven't already started it, because it is one of those, like you said, like, what was the thing about this? And they keep making references to, like, oh, I hope you find somebody who looks at you with different eyes, and then it's like the guy has 2 different color eyes, and so it's like you're bringing up a lot about eyes, but I don't really know what the point of it is yet.
Yeah. Also, is this one of the few... I feel like there's a few moments of racism in this book.
There definitely feels like some moments of, like Irish, like, hate.
Yeah, towards other people. It was kind of weird.
It was a strange... It's trying to be like those action movies of, like, the spy movies where they have those jokes, and I don't really know where it's going. Yeah. So it's a strange book that I think you're gonna have to read issues like 1 and 2 together to kind of see where it goes. It is, and then kind of see like where this story unfolds, because it is getting a little confusing if you're not like up to date with it. And as I was like, oh, I don't really remember issue 1, and so I was trying to fall into what happened, and I'm like, I remember thinking like issue 1 could go in a couple of different directions, and I'm still not sure like which direction they're planning to go in.
I don't either. It's very convoluted. This is a tough one for me. it's one of those where it's like I see Scout's name on there, so I'm like, I have to believe that this story eventually is going to get good. But I'm also concerned that if it's still convoluted by issue 3, then I may just be out.
Right.
But definitely pick it up and let us know what you think, because I have a lot of questions, and maybe
somebody not reading 27 books at the same time might be able to solve those problems.
Like if you're reading Broken Eye, call me later and explain to me what exactly is going on in this book.
Yeah, if you're reading it and you're watching this live or later on YouTube, actually just comment and tell us some things that you want, because like Phil and I will read that and be like, oh, that's what we missed. Okay. Because there are definitely times where somebody else will pick up the book and go, oh, because this is about this, and Phil and I are like, so it is, isn't it?
Well, it's like when we walk out of movies and Matt immediately turns, he's like, I love that movie. It's basically like Raging Against the White Guy, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Did we see the same movie? Because I just saw a guy punching other guys.
And I get that. I'm on the same page with Matt usually when he talks about what the movies mean. This book, though, I'm like, I feel like we're missing a page somewhere between, and I think it was just because it has been so long since issue 1 came out, and I feel like if I go back and read issue 1 and 2 together, like it might come together a little bit better, but I'm still like, I don't know that you've made your point yet.
Right.
So we'll see. From CX Comics Experience Publishing, we've got Past the Last Mountain #2, which is a cool oversized book. You get a lot of story in it. You get lots of stories on top of like the one ongoing story. Then you get the war stories in the back. But do you want to tell them about this one?
Yes. So Past the Last Mountain is in issue 1. We have a prison break, but it is a troll, her son, a fawn, and a dragon. And they break out of prison in this like containment area that we have put them in, because it turns out that there was a war basically between humans and fantasy creatures. And
shocking to nobody, we put all of the creatures we didn't understand in cages.
Yes. And so this kind of follows the story of this dragon and fawn who are taking this young troll to a place called Dragon Lake, which so far to this point is believed to just be kind of like a myth. Like
imaginary place.
Yeah, like, oh, this is just, something to kind of get them excited about existence. Like, oh, there's this beautiful oasis where we can go. And so this is kind of the fallout from issue 1, and they kind of continue on their journey towards Dragon Lake. We also get a chance to meet some humans that are kind of on their side.
Yeah, which we haven't seen a lot of yet.
You haven't. You get, like, you mostly have this agent who's like, it's my first day on the job and I have to prove my worth, and I'm just going to do whatever I can to capture them. But it is kind of nice that we are seeing a little bit of the other side of the coin. This guy that finds them tells this really great story about his brother who was also a fawn, which I thought was just...
Oh, this is a moving story.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
It's a really moving story.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm really impressed by this book.
I'm really impressed. And we were just talking about how, like, high fantasy isn't either of our thing, and yet both of us are continuously impressed by this book. Yeah. And this is one of those books where we are using the fantasy aspect to tell a narrative that's relevant to humanity.
Yes.
And even with the war stories in the back, because I love, there's, like, half of it is the ongoing story, and the other half is the war stories anthology that kind of just shows you what it's like for different people and everybody across the board. And there's the one story, The Last Shot, that was about the guy who he's like a guy who goes to like kill, like that's his whole thing, is he's like a sniper essentially that's supposed to kill these creatures. And he ends up killing a creature who has a child with it. Mm-hmm. And he can't bring himself to do anything to the child. And the way that story goes, I was like, I'm going to cry now. Like, This is freaking beautiful. This is a great, one of the best like ways to talk about war and the impact it has on humanity and our connections to other people. Like, it was such a good story. And the art on it was super cool because it's completely different from all the other art. But, oh my god, it was a beautiful story.
If you were truly to win me over with your second issue, you would have a story with art by Casper Wingard.
I know. I was
of
waiting
Homesick
for
Pilots.
I specifically did not bring that up because I knew that was your moment.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I was so shocked to see his name on this book and the art in this one.
So Casper.
I love this 2-page spread. It's about these woodland tree creatures.
The hippies who don't want to go to war,
yes,
essentially.
And they, it's really great because they take out these little petals out of their stomach, and basically it makes people feel love, which is just really wonderful. And it turns out we as humans decide to abuse that little bit of power that they've given to us, and
well, it's a nod to the putting the flower in the gun.
Yes,
it is it's completely supposed to be in reference to the peaceful protest and the idea of I'm going to put the flower in your gun and I'm going to walk away, and just that whole concept of there's no need for make love not war,
right,
and all of that, and then how those people eventually are the ones who get trampled. Mm-hmm. Until they fight back, and they have the most power to fight back when they do. It's so good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This book, it's like you said, it completely surprises me every time I read it. I'm even you and I both did the same thing, but separately. And then I got to the stack, I was like, do I need to read this one? And I was like, oh my god, wait, yes I do, because I loved the war stories last time. Yeah. And then I started reading it, and I'm so glad that I did. And then you were like, I don't think I read this. And I was like, yes, you did. Read it. You need to read it.
It's really well done storytelling.
Really well done.
Across the board. I feel like if there's any super small press, I'm talking smaller than Vault and Scout, this is one of those that I think is worth checking out.
Yeah.
I'm putting this kind of in that same category as Behemoth and Stonebot, where it's just if I see your logo pop up, I'm more intrigued to put your books at the top of the pile. And this is now, I'm going to remember this. That when issue 3 comes out, I'm going to be like, oh, I remember this book, and it'll be at the top.
Which was a recommendation from our subscriber, Chad, who runs the Green Lantern podcast, Lantern Cast. He saw that in the previous catalog and was like, I don't know, I need this. And we were like, wow, this is great. And it's not our first time. We've had a couple other CEX books, but this is the first one that's really blown me away with what they're doing, so I can't wait. We've got a couple other titles. Chad's asking which other ones we had. I don't remember their names. That's why I'm like, this is the one that made the impact. But speaking of small presses, Bad Kids Press has issue 2 of Cheap Tricks out. Did you get to read it?
So I read it, but I don't remember issue 1.
Issue 1 is, and we loved how comical issue 1 was. It was the guy who went into the bar and convinces the bad guy to come out and fight him, and then he shoots him, but really it's his grandma from up in the mountains.
That's right.
And then he runs off with the woman and takes her to the hills, and so this is the continuation of all of that.
Okay.
With the granny.
The
cool granny.
Kind of makes sense. This issue was so confusing to me because there's a flashback in here, and they don't indicate at all that it's a flashback.
No, and that was confusing.
And so I was very confused by this. But you get a flashback involving the guy's, I think it's a story with the guy's grandma.
It's the grandma and the other person that's traveling with them, essentially, I think.
And so you kind of get a little bit of this backstory, and then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And this book takes a turn that I was not expecting it to
because
take.
Issue 1 was so comical that I was like, this is going to be a fun, woohoo all the time. And then it gets to the end of this issue, and I was like, oh, we're okay. Well, that's the thing we're going to do. So here we are, and this is where we're going. But I love that his whole thing is I am going to be an actor.
Yeah.
I was like, calm down. He's like, I'm not here for shootouts and things like that. I just want to be an actor. And we're just making our way to New York so that I can be an actor in the theater. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's something terrible is gonna happen to this guy because he's so over the top dramatic. It's gonna be hilarious.
And I was kind of bummed that there wasn't as much comedy in this. Yeah. But again, I now remembering that first issue and loving it so much, Like, I'm kind of okay with this because you are moving the story forward.
It definitely moves the story forward. Yeah.
And so I'm on board. I'm gonna keep going. I think if I sit down and read like 1, 2, and 3 when 3 comes out,
Yeah.
I'll be a little bit more like, okay, I see where this is going. But I think just the time between both issues and the millions of books I've read in between. You know, it's so many times because I feel like every time I come over here and I start reading books, I'll show you what I'm not reading. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't think I read this one. And you're like, no, you did.
No, you did.
No, you read it. You didn't like it. It's
yeah,
okay.
Usually,
You
or
didn't care
like,
for
no,
it.
you love that book.
Yeah.
Still, and you're like, I did? Okay.
Yeah. It was there was the one about the girl warrior or something where I was like, I don't think I read this. And you're like, no, you. Oh, it's the one with the twins.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I read this book. And you're like, no, you loved it.
Yeah.
No.
You were like, oh, this could have been a pick of the week.
Yeah,
And you're like, oh,
yeah.
damn.
But I do enjoy this. I'm hoping it stays comedic because the art style
It's very comedic.
is very comedic. Feels like a kid's book.
This actually, the whole book, the concept, everything, like I could have seen this on Literati Press. So, and Bad
Yeah.
Kids Press kind of feels like a Literati Press kind of publisher, in that they do kind of go with all the same themes and things.
Yeah.
I just need my second issue of Stealing Oz, and I was about to check and see if I missed ordering it. And then I was like, okay, don't do that right now. But yeah, and they are Bad Kids Press is Frankenrocker.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of Frankenrocker and Jailbait Punks, you should be picking up some other cool Bad Kids Press books because so far, Cheap Tricks, Stealing Oz, and Frankenrockers have yet to disappoint.
Yeah, they haven't been bad books at all. I just need to keep up with my stories.
With what you're reading. We've got some endings. I'm not going to start there. We'll start here. Rise of Dracula, issue 6. This is the end of the Rise of Dracula story arc. But don't you worry, fans of Source Point's wonderful Dracula story, because the end of Rise of Dracula leads us to the Reign of Dracula.
Wait, is it actually called Reign of Dracula?
It is called Reign of Dracula.
Didn't you call that?
Yeah.
Weren't you like, it's going to be called Reign of Dracula?
It is actually called Reign of Dracula.
No
I
way.
think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Did I make it up again? But
No.
it is Reign of Dracula.
Right. Wow.
Woohoo. I have read the whole series. I better get it right.
That is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for the applause. You want to tell them what Rise of Dracula is about, Phil? Since I read this issue, I might spoil it, but you didn't, so...
This is basically if Dracula decided to take over the U.S. They are tired of how we are running things as humans.
Picture with all the vampires.
And it's really great because you kind of get a history of Dracula, and in this one, she's always been a badass female. And there's some really great art throughout this story with just badass vampire women. But yeah, this is essentially humans, we've completely just ruined everything. And so the more superior race is going to step up and take over. And
it is vampires.
Yeah.
So, and I love it, like you said, you just showed that Last Supper picture, which is all the different vampires. So how it gets convoluted in the vampire lore, people are like, oh, Count Orlok and Vlad the Impaler, they're all Dracula. And it's this book is no, none of those other people are Dracula. This is Dracula.
Vampires,
they're just other vampires who have their own clans of vampires, throughout the world. And they all come together and they all bow down at Dracula's feet, whether they want to or not. And she is a female ruler, and it is awesome.
Yeah, and the great thing is, if you haven't come in and read this, there is a prequel to it, Cult of Dracula.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I didn't read Cult of Dracula, and I still really enjoyed this series.
I was just talking to a comic creator this week, and I said one of the things that when you're writing a series that you need to be able to do is, as a reader, what I want from a comic creator is if you write a spin-off / sequel, I want to be able to pick up your sequels, your companion book or your sequel, and not have read volume 1 and not be lost. Canto. I read volume 2 of Canto first, and I thought it was the greatest book of all time. And then I went back and read volume 1, and I was like, oh, wow, that makes way more sense. This makes it even better.
Yeah.
And you read Rise of Dracula without reading Cult of Dracula, and you were like, dude, this book is fucking great. And I was like, did you read Cult of Dracula? And you were like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so that's the mark of a good, good storytelling, is that I can jump into your new volume, not having read, like, the previous volume, and not feel lost, and yet want to go back and learn more about your characters.
Right. I'm thrilled for Rain.
It's going to be great. I love that it is actually called Rain.
Which means that after that, it's got to be called Fall.
Right. It's
So
got to
get the Reign of Dracula and then the Fall.
And you know what, Source Point? Keep doing it. I'm going to keep reading it. You just keep going.
I don't know what would come after the Fall of Dracula, but...
You know, we'll find out.
The Rise Again.
Rise Again.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Last book you'll ever read, issue 8 from Vault. This is actually the last issue of the last book you'll ever read. And I don't know if you can show anything inside it. This is another one of those. But this is all about a woman who writes a book. And the book starts making people act like crazy people. Like, they either are, like, viciously attacking people, or they're acting out on all of their, like, sexual desires, or, like, in the middle of streets kind of thing. Or they're doing, you know, whatever. And some of them consider her to be, like, the herald of this great moment. And some of them consider her to be, like, the sacrilege against the true calling. And there's a whole battle. She has to go off and fight. She's supposed to be facing, like, all of these people. She keeps going and going and going. She finally realizes that she has to go against this creature who I thought she was in issue 1. I am very confused because there's a point in issue 1 where, like, you see a reflection in the glass and she has, like, the monster inside of her. But then every other issue since then, she's been like, what monster? And then they're like, oh, you have to go find it and fight it, and it's not actually inside of her, and there's nothing. She is not the monster. And you know, I'm just, it's not the strongest ending. It's very open ending. You could keep going, but it is not the strongest ending that Cullen Bunn has ever given us. No.
Cullen Bunn missed the landing again?
You know, and he was doing so well with Parasomnia, and I really wanted that one to get an ending, and I think that's the one that, I think Dark Horse is the one that canceled his titles, which is a shame, because Parasomnia was actually the best book that he had out.
A lot of nudity in that.
And Parasomnia was my favorite Cullen Bunn book that was out at the time. Had Andrew Moody on art. It was actually a really, really cool story. It also had these cool covers that you could flip over.
Yeah, I remember that,
it was a badass book, and it got canceled, and I'm so mad about that. And then, like, this wasn't my favorite ending, and I'm surprised because it's from Vault. And it had such a good concept, but it is actually, it's not my favorite ending. However, I know a lot of people who are reading it, so I can't wait to hear what they thought. I like the open-endedness of it, because if you know me, you know that I'm obsessed with open-ended endings. But, yeah. Ooh, Chad brought up Lucky Devil. You know what? Lucky Devil was great.
Yeah.
I still want more, but Lucky Devil was great.
That was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, out of all the Cullen Bunn books, honestly, I would consider this the last Cullen Bunn book you'll ever read. That's the title.
I've been waiting for you to make that joke. And
I
I tried so hard to not make that joke all the time, because I'm like, I hear you in my head saying that.
Yeah.
But it didn't go as far with the ending as I wanted it to, but I do like the openness of the fact that we could get a different story. Like, you could keep going. It feels like the ending of, like, that first movie where you're like, oh, they're definitely going to make another one.
Right.
But I don't know that they will, because it is called The Last Book You'll Ever Read. So, who knows? From Image, The End of Step by Bloody Step. This is an entirely silent book, which has now actually become a part of all of my workshops because of the fact that the entire series is silent.
That's awesome.
And issue 3, which I know you just told me you didn't get to read issue 3. Issue 3 was super emotional. She's kind of a teenager now. Like, we've seen her, like, she's grown up. And in issue 3, she met a prince, and she, like, lived, you saw her, like, have, like, a Cinderella moment, and she started, like, living at the castle, and she's going through all of this stuff, and then a war breaks out, and
so
you see the fallout of them. Yeah, so it kind of jumps ahead.
Oh, okay.
And now she's just, like, this teenage girl, and she's back on her own, and she's back with her giant, and she's going through the woods, and it's kind of like, no matter what you do in life, like, you never know where you're gonna go. And, like, bad things will follow you no matter what. And you kind of see her go, like, recap everything as she's walking in this one, where she sees all of the stuff she's experienced and all the stuff that she's been through. And she just keeps walking. Like, it's like there's nothing else. There's just the walking. And just keep putting one step in front of the other. And it's so well done. They are, I believe it said, doing a hardcover. 100, like, all the pages, all issues in one, like, hardcover will be available soon. And I bet it's going to be beautiful because the book is beautiful.
Yes.
If you want just a... Honestly, buy this for your coffee table. When it comes out as a hardcover book, like, buy that and put it on your coffee table, because this is going to be the perfect, like, friends come over and flip through it and they're like, oh my god, this is gorgeous, like, what is it, kind of thing. And you're like, oh, you should just flip through it because it's great. And if you don't flip through it and read the whole thing, like, you still get to see great art. But if you do actually sit there and go page by page and read it, you get an absolutely gorgeous coming of age story and the reality that the world is always going to be hard, and you just got to keep going one step at a time.
It's such a bummer that this is ending already.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand. I mean, it is kind of tough to do the
silent
issues for a very long time. But yeah, I mean, the art. This is actually one of those that, like, as much as I want a hardcover, I really want an absolute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, blow this thing up real big. Although I do know, like, with Little Bird, that was a kind of oversized. Their hardcovers are a tad bit oversized, so
I assume maybe it's not hardcover. I feel like it's hardcover. It just says collected, so I hope it's a hardcover. Maybe I just decided that it should be hardcover. Image, I'm not even into hardcovers, and I'm like, make this a hardcover.
Yeah.
Like you did Carmen, which was beautiful.
That Carmen hardcover is wonderful.
Did you ever take the jacket off?
I have not yet, no.
If you take the jacket off, it's got a full page, like, panel, like, spread inside of it. Like, it's like you could hang it up as a poster of just a panel of the book, like a page of the book blown up across
the kid in me wants to do that, because I used to love, like, ripping stuff out of magazines and hanging them on my wall, but the collector in me now would be like, I can't.
Yeah, I have the one open copy in the front, and every time somebody, like, is like, oh, this book looks cool, which I only have the one open copy left. I'm actually completely sold out of Carmen other than the open copy.
I mean,
which is great. Yeah. Once I opened it, they all sold in the same day. It's amazing. The Rush. This is issue 6 from Vault, and this is the end of The Rush, which stands for This Hungry Earth Reddens Under Snow-Clad Hills. It is a really great book about the gold rush meets demonic monsters. How your ambition essentially is your downfall.
Yeah.
And they just personify it through, like, a monstrous appearance.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of words on that page.
This is the opposite of Step by Bloody Step. As Step by Bloody Step had no words, The Rush has all of them. All of the words that Step by Step Bloody Step did not put in, The Rush added.
Which is funny. Both Cy Spurrier books.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
There you go. This is where all his words went.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude.
Okay.
This book, this is all, you do a really good job explaining this book. Can you explain this book? What you read, not obviously this issue, but, like, what The Rush is about. You do a good job.
I mean, The Rush is a book about a mother who decides to go looking for her son, who goes missing while taking part in the gold rush. She goes to this small town, and kind of kicks off on this this adventure. She meets some interesting people along the way, and there's this, like, weird paranormal side to it all. I'm only on issue 4. I kind of fell behind, and I feel like outside of the very wordiness of these books, I really love this story.
And it needed to be wordy. It fits the time frame that it's written in. And B, it's all done through, like, a lot of letters and then conversations. So the narration is essentially a letter from the mother to her son about her whole experience. And you learn a lot about that in this issue. She explains the letter in this issue.
Really? Okay.
And you learn about what's happened with the son. You do get a lot of that. You get to see a lot with this woman. This woman is a total badass. I love this character.
Okay. No, never mind. I was going to ask you a question, but it's going to spoil
Yeah.
Kind of where this is probably.
And that's why I'm like, she, yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you, but she has gone out to the Old West where women are not welcome. And she's just kind of putting herself right in the middle of all of this danger and is like, well, you know what? I don't care. Like, I gotta find my son. I don't care. And she's gotten in a lot of trouble. Like, there's, people who have, like, come after her. There's people who've turned on her. There's all kinds of stuff that happen in this. And she's just always like, throw it at me. I don't care. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
That is one thing I've liked about this book is kind of how she's a badass. And, there's moments early on where you're like, there's more to you than what you're showing us. And I think slowly throughout we're going to get that. But it's kind of like overshadowed by the paranormal side of it. So I think there's like a lot of really great layers to this story where you're like, oh, there is this demonic supernatural side to it. But at the same time, there's some other really interesting character development that I want to see you explore.
And even that ends up having, the demonic paranormal side even ends up having a very, like, female-forward message in the end.
Okay.
So, which I liked. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to stop flipping through the backside of that.
Right. You need
I'm getting too close to the
I know,
end
you
of
need
this.
to read issues 5 and 6, because we need to talk about it.
I know.
The end of Volume 1 of We Have Demons is here. I guess that's what happens when you have oversized issues, but This is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo doing their creator-owned title. Originally Comixology book, printed by Dark Horse. This is issue 3. It's the wrap-up. It's fantastic. I just love this book. It's so much fun.
I wasn't here when I think issue 2 came out.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
And so I missed it, but I remember that first issue. I was like, this is comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to explain to somebody what a comic book is, like, hey, this is it right here. It's a really amazing creative team, and it's such a cool story.
Oh my God, I love that top panel.
Yeah, the art in this book. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
I mean, just a fantastic artist. There was a reason why Todd McFarlane eventually handed over the Spawn reins to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And this book showcases that. If you're like, I still don't get it, just read this book, because this is what monsters should look like. And We Have Demons is the story of a young girl she believed her dad was a priest for a long time, but she does learn that her dad has been a part of a group of people who fight against demons. And now it is her responsibility to come into that group and fight these demons. And she doesn't really believe in God or demons. She kind of thinks everybody's a terrible person. And she's not wrong. Most people have a lot of terribleness in them. And it's kind of in this is her learning that, yes, maybe all people have a lot of bad in them, but they do have the ability to choose to do good. And that's kind of like her whole journey into finding faith in something, because she doesn't really have faith in God or faith in people. And it's kind of her finding that while also fighting all of these demons. And it's a fun story. I mean, it's Scott Snyder, so it's great storytelling. It's Greg Capullo, you get great art. And 3 issues, like 3 up, 3 down kind of thing. You get the whole first volume of the story, and it's fantastic the whole way through.
There's going to be more, though, right?
Yes, it does say to be continued, like in the next volume. Into volume 1 is what it says, or something like that. So, yeah, absolutely, and I can't wait.
Also, great Frank Cavill cover.
Yeah, well, and that's why I picked that cover.
Oh, okay, I was like, I assume that was the case.
Obviously, I picked the Frank Cavill cover for that reason, because I love Frank. All right, we got a bunch of number 1s. So we're going to talk about number ones as much. So you know what? Let's just start here, because there's nothing really to talk about.
Yeah, so this is, I believe I think it's called Artists Elite.
Artists Elite, which is like Tyler Kirkham and a bunch of other artists like that, who are artists who never get to be artists/writers and feel like they should be.
Yeah. And this was, I didn't know what to expect, because there's not a lot on this cover. Like, it doesn't really say what it is.
It's literally just Artists Elite, like,
I think it's
red.
Primer red.
Primer red.
Yeah.
Primer blue comes out this week.
So this is pretty much a previews of what's coming down the line from them. So you get kind of like a few of these like little like 2-page previews. They kind of explain to you what's going on. There's the Serpent Prince. There's a character named Ansira or Ankira is another one. I'll tell you right now, this feels very much like heavily influenced by 90s Image.
This is, yeah.
Or like early Dynamite.
Feels like these were, like, this is their image revolution for these artists who are like, hey, we also want to get a shot at that, and we didn't. Like, Ryan Kincaid has a story in here, which, like, Ryan works on a lot of covers and a lot of, like, independently published books, self-published books. And, you know, and shout out to Ryan, hello, because we're friends on Facebook, so you might be watching this. But all of these people, like, they're artists who do have stories to tell, and they don't ever get their chance to tell their stories.
Right.
So they've started their own publishing company so that they can kind of give themselves the chance to do art and writing on some of their stories that they've had in their minds for a long time that they haven't been able to share. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot that are very heavily influenced by those 90s comics, because they've probably been planning these since they were like kids and teens in the 90s. Right. And it is, like you said, this is our Primer Red. There is a Primer Blue, which I think is the one that has Tyler Kirkham, but Alan Quah has a story in this one, and it's a lot of them are just, this is what the premise will be, and here's a couple of pages of the character design, and then some of them are actually like 1 or 2 snippet pages of the story. So it's a preview, it's like a preview exclusive, that if you are going to be interested in like the same way, like, oh, maybe they'll blow up like Image, like, I definitely recommend having a copy of these for your collection. Yeah,
or like signings down the road. I think this would have been kind of cooler as an ash can if you would have like shrunk this down and kind of made it more of an exclusive.
But a lot of my ash cans these days are full size.
That is true. They are kind of doing that, which kind of makes me feel like maybe we should change the term from ash can to something else.
Yeah.
I always felt,
preview.
Yeah, preview. Huh?
You burn it in an ash can. That's the point of it. They're supposed to be burned books, so you read it once and then you burn it in an ash can.
Okay,
that's where the term came from.
Is it really?
Huh?
I had no idea.
Yes.
So read this and then burn it.
Don't burn books. Never burn books.
But yeah, I think it's kind of cool. At first, I was a little off-put because I was like, this like first little page here where they explain this Serpent Prince and like this little bit in the beginning. It was hard to read, but it was also like, you really are doing a poor job of explaining this. Where you're kind of like, oh, and there's like history, but like, you know, it could be the same, whatever.
Yeah, I was like, I just want to read the story.
Yeah,
I just need to read the story.
The art looks cool though in some of these.
It's Brett Booth on that first, the Serpent Prince.
Written and illustrated by Brett Booth. But I'm also interested in this Ansira or Ansiba.
Yeah.
Paulo Pantalina.
I'm really curious to see what Tyler Kirkham has for his story when it gets to there. But I'm definitely curious to see how Alan Quah's story comes out, like once it's actually in production. So. Yeah,
this is definitely one that, you know, I would pay attention to, especially if you are a fan of modern comic book.
Yes, and if you are following any of those artists, grab those first, like grab the primers, because that's going to be the book that people later are looking for, in the same way that a lot of those ash cans do. Ultramax, book 1 from Source Point.
Yes, a new Source Point title. This is if the guy who kills the superhero gets arrested and is sent to an Ultramax prison.
Yeah.
That is the premise of this book. It feels very much like it's going to be one of those prison dramas, which has never really been a genre that I'm into. Like, I never watched, what was the all-female prison show?
Oh, Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black.
Did you watch Prison Break?
Yes, but that was because they were trying to break out of the prison.
Okay, you don't like the in the prison.
Yeah, I don't need the story where it continues to remain in the prison. Like, I want the story to eventually be, hey, let's get out of here.
Which I'm wondering where this is going to go, because this is
going to go.
Because there seems to be, like, there's superheroes in this universe, and that, like, he's being wrongfully accused of killing a superhero. And, like, legitimately wrongfully accused, and everybody seems to be aware of that. There's even some prisoners who are aware of that already, and the warden. And then the warden, Like, where was that going? Like, there's stuff with the warden. Like, there's a lot of really interesting, like, tidbits here to really build out a huge universe of what they're going to do with this. Which is crazy, because I originally thought it was a one-shot, because I didn't see a number on it, and, like, I guess when I took it out of the box, my hand was on the book 1. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is a one-shot? And then I read it, and I was like, this is definitely not a one-shot. No. I'm intrigued. I want to know, because you do get that whole, like, oh, I have to figure out, like, this is like the first season of Prison Break, where he's like getting into the prison and he's like, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to get killed and I'm never going to break anybody out.
And also here are some of the main players. Yeah. Like, let's introduce you to the system that takes place in this prison. So I do like some of the setup. I'm just... Yeah. I don't really know where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Also, too, you know, the whole superhero aspect of it. How's that going to play into it? So there's definitely a lot of things I'm interested by, but at the same time, you know, they're not going to be breaking out of prison.
We're going to find out, because I feel like he's going to have to at some point. Otherwise, he's not going to make it.
Yeah, because he's pretty much made the statement, like, there's no way I'm going to live to see the end of my sentence. Yeah. Because there's moments early on in this, too, where he's like, that guy's in the ground and I went to prison and I feel like he got the better deal. Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah, you know, I can see this potentially having some good story in it. You know, Source Point Press, another one of those where it's like, I'll give it a go. Yeah.
Up next it's technically an issue 3, I believe, of the, or is it 4? 4. But they're all one shot, so I put it in the number 1s. This is the Storyteller Shapeshifters. It's the Jim Henson books. So you always have, you know, the Jim Henson talking to the dog kind of moment. This is all about a little girl who experiences Ol Heg. And Ol Heg is a demonic spirit, like, woman who she takes her skin off at night, and she is a fire spirit. And if you let her into your house, she can come in at any time, and she will drain you of all of your life source. So this is like your classic, like, horror story that you tell your children to, like, not talk to strangers in the market kind of thing. But this is a little girl encounters her, like, in a market, and then is worried about it. And as the story is going on, her mother is being drained by Ol Heg, and she has to try to figure out if she can stop this situation. And I'm supposed to tell you not to go too far, because Matt wants this in his read pile. Okay. So, but it's got that classic, like, eerie horror story, like, sitting around telling your friends this and then being scared, like, the rest of the night. So it's really good. If you have not read the Storyteller series, the Jim Henson Storyteller series, any issue, anytime, they're all unrelated anthologies. You can pick up any of them. They're all amazing. You're going to love it, and you should. Like, the Tricksters, the Shapeshifters, any of doesn't matter what volume it is, they all have these beautiful stories, or, like, these trippy stories, but then it's Jim Henson storytelling, right. So they always have a lesson in the end. So good. Read it. Scout Comics, number 1 of By the Horns, Dark Earth. This is volume 2 of By the Horns. And so it's technically like issue 9, but it's issue 1 of the new volume. And this is a story. The volume 1 is all about a girl who her husband is killed. She believes by a unicorn, so she hates unicorns, and she's going out to slaughter all the unicorns, but then ends up having to, like, save them and finding out that they're not the problem and defend her, like, home. And now she has defeated the evil sorceress, and that has caused, like, the whole world, like, no plants are growing, like, nothing good is happening anymore. And so she has to go out now and figure out how to solve this new problem that's going on. And I'm not normally, like we talked about, I'm not normally a high fantasy person, but I loved this book. It's just always been really bright and really fun, and the characters are great, and it's got that Scout comedy level to it. Mm-hmm. And that same, like, also pulling on the heartstrings, because every time she's like, you know, her and her, like, fox elk type mixture creature. Like they'll have something will happen to one of them, and they have this moment together, and then they try to take care of it. She has also her like adventure outfit. It's just like if I was playing a video game, I would pick her as my character every time because she has like the best adventure outfit. Always a fun book. If you haven't read it, we do have volume 1 up by the horns, which I think we're going to talk about in trades later on. But I loved volume 1, so I'm sold and ready to go on volume 2, and it's literally one of the most fun colored books that you'll see.
Yeah, this was one I didn't read because I've been waiting to read volume 1. I need to sit down and actually read it. But I do agree. I think it's such a colorful, fun-looking book, and I'm a big fan of the badass female leads.
I appreciate that.
And every time I see this book, I'm like, she just looks like such a badass.
She is. Up next, also from CEX Publishing, this is a one-shot of Edgar Allan Poe's The Vanquishing Worm.
The Conqueror Worm.
The Conqueror Worm. Just kidding. I am trying to remember that off the top of my head. The Conqueror Worm. This is the Edgar Allan Poe poem turned into a comic book. And
yes, and I had absolutely
it's a one-shot.
No idea what this is about. Because one, I am very bad at understanding old English like that, where there's lows and what's the other one? Yeah, bewinged. What is that? Is that even a word?
Bewinged? Yeah, it's people who are winged. Like, they have wings. It's talking about, like, the angels, like the people with wings.
This book was super confusing.
So let me talk about this book.
I love the art. That's all I can tell you.
The art is fantastic. And it did a really good job of telling the story because this is all about basically like the idea that these people are worshiping this god and they're going to keep coming to this god and they're trying to find like their salvation and take of this holiness. But like as they come, darkness is going to, no matter what, like overwhelm that. And there's always going to be like the people killing each other to try to get like, I'm closest to the gods, so they're going to kill each other. They're going to fight, and it's like you're all supposed to be here worshiping, but you want to like elevate yourself over the other people to the point where you're always going to like fight each other. And it's like, hey, we could all build each other up and we could get to this same level together, but we as humans can never do that. And and then it's like, and we all, you know, and they even use the apple in here because it's like, oh, we're lusting after this knowledge, the knowledge of good and evil and all of this, and they're like coming for it and they're coming for it. And then it's like, well, no matter what, like we sit here and we go after all of this together, and then at the end, like we all face our destruction the same way because this conquering worm is the evil is has overtaken all of us, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's Edgar Allan Poe, so it's a horror story in the form of a poem, in the form of a comic book now.
That's presented as a play?
Yes, essentially. It feels very much like a play.
That's what I thought it was. I thought we were watching a play about this poem. I mean, look, if I was smarter, I would love this book a whole bunch. Because I did really like the art, and I kind of liked like the giant worm that comes. I think I put is this a book about the end of the world?
Kind of. You could say that.
Okay.
It's a book about the fact that, like I said, we're all going to go after, we're all trying to be the one who gets the knowledge. Like, that's why they use the apple. Like, at some points, they're all going after the knowledge, and they're like killing each other over this knowledge of good and evil. It's the representation of the fruit in Eden. But then there's also the idol statue of like the god, and they're all like going after that. And it's like we all keep fighting over this like truth, essentially. And at the end of the day, the only truth is that the conquering worm is going to destroy us all.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Definitely come check it out for the art, especially. There's some really cool imagery in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't even really paying attention to most of the words because I was just so mesmerized by a lot of this art.
That's fair. I have to go with this next. This is also from SourcePoint. This is issue 1 of volume 2 of Good Boy, which volume 1 of Good Boy is what if you reversed the story of John Wick and the human was killed and the dog was anthropomorphic and went after all the people that attacked the human. That's literally what Good Boy is. And somehow volume 2 of Good Boy became the most prolific book that I read this week almost.
Wow.
Like, it is like right beneath new think on some of the like depth that it went to, because it starts out like the same thing, like, oh, we're going after these people, but then they go into this whole deep conversation in the middle of how we're all going after this and we'll never find peace, and it becomes like this massive story. Like, it's almost always like these like one shot, like, you know, whoop whoop whoops, like what the hell, like things, and then I mean just flip. I want you to show the difference that this gets to suddenly in the middle of the book, where like suddenly we're having this proverb of a conversation and we're going, and I was like, oh my god, this is so deep. How did we get here? How did I get to these really deep moments with a dog going after the killer of his owner? But I don't know how we did it, but we did, and it was beautiful. And it's like, hey, you can keep going after your enemies forever, but you're never going to find that peace. And I was like, oh my god, this book is just, we're talking about dogs hunting down the killers of their owners. Here we are. It's great. If you're a John Wick fan and you didn't read Volume 1 of Good Boy, I recommend you go back and read it. There's actually a director's cuts that are coming out of Volume 1 right now.
Nice.
So you can get that. We just had Volume 1, Issue 1 director's cut come out at the week before Volume 2, Issue 1 came out. You gotta get it. It's great. It's so much fun. It is the action movie that I actually wanted. And I want to see Keanu play the dog when we do the Good Boy live action.
Or Nicolas Cage.
And Keanu is still the John Wick, and he dies, and
Yes.
then Nick Cage becomes the dog, and like goes
Oh
on.
my gosh, please.
This is the greatest movie of all time. Triskel from Scout Comics, Issue 1. This is the high fantasy book that is the most high fantasy that I have read in a long time.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful story. It has a lot of great meaning, some great art. There's a lot going on here. But it is definitely, that is your warning, like going into it. This is extremely high fantasy. We're following a group of kids who are making stupid choices, going into places they shouldn't. Also, I have to time out for a second. It is written by Pan. This is a high fantasy book about fairies and all of the like magic of the Celtic mythology, and it's written by somebody named Pan. It like actually Pan, like the god Pan, who is also like from the Felipe Pan. Okay, I was like, Pan. Is there another name that goes with that? Because I just saw that and I was like, wow, the god Pan wrote this book about Celtic mythology, which is all about fairies. I was really excited for a moment. It's a very, very like kids going off, like trying to have that first big adventure and ending up in way over their heads in a fantasy world in Celtic mythology. If you are a fan of Celtic mythology, there is no book that goes further into it. This takes like Last Witch up like 10 notches in that level of Celtic mythology, and I am curious to see where it goes, but I don't know that I'm gonna ever remember a single character's name.
Yeah, this is one of those where, like, the opening to this book, where it's like this boy follows this crow into a well and maybe has gotten some type of magical powers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of this art is very beautiful. It looks fantastic. So that's going to be something that's going to make me want to continue to read this. There was a lot of times where I was like, oh, wait. Like, I always get nervous when I'm reading a book and there's an asterisk and then you look down and it's like, oh, that's the Celtic word for this. I'm like, oh, crap. That means that they're probably going to use this word a whole bunch of times.
Or not, because Land of the Living Legends does it.
That's
just to actually teach you African languages that you've never heard.
That is true.
Which I love.
But I'm going to continue on with this. It's not, high fantasy is not really my thing.
But it's beautiful.
It's very beautiful, and I like a lot of the setup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm also a big fan of like the hero's journey.
Yes.
And I think you're going to get that with this. And there's, I think, a potential for a lot of world building with this.
Yeah, I mean, my name is Shannon, and I'm pretty sure I was a changeling. Like I was a fairy kid that they like left on a human's doorstep or something as a child. I'm not really sure, but it was one of those things where I was like, this is the mythology that I was supposed to learn as like a child. Like, this is the Celtic mythology of my people, and like I want to see if my river comes into play. But I love this, that the art on the cover even really, like, kind of almost gives you, like, the Moon Knight vibes of, like, all of that. And so I'm really curious to see where this goes, because you do have those classic, like, teenagers, like, almost in, like, a Stranger Things moment where it's, like, these, like, or Goonies even, where it's, like, these 4 kids who came together and they, like, oh, we're just all chilling. But it's, like, what would that look like in, like, the Celtic, like, the time of Celtic mythology?
Yeah.
Like, in old Ireland, like, these kids are, like, hey, we're just, like, leaving our village to play around, and, like, we're gonna go explore these ruins, and now we're exploring these ruins, and, we might have just unleashed, like, crazy, like, end of the world apocalypse kind of situation from a mythology. Again, it's deep, so, like, take it on its own when you do go to read it, but know that, like, this is that high fantasy that has a beautiful story, that has beautiful art, and the art is definitely going to help you move that story along.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a bit heavy. It's maybe one of those where you sit with a notepad and you kind of just jot down who these characters are and you go back to it. And maybe that's something I need to start doing with these books, because there's...
Keep your notes.
Yeah. I usually go through and delete my notes because I get to the point where my phone's like, hey, you don't have any more space, delete something. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I wrote a fairy series. Like, my first novel series that I ever wrote was about fairies. Okay. And so when I read books like this that are set in, like, Celtic mythology, I'm like, okay, how would I draw out this map and all of these character relations if I was the one writing this book? And that's, like, the only way I can keep it together now. Because I literally, I was working in a clothing store at the time when I wrote my fairy series. There is a box, like the gift boxes that they put clothes in. There's a box lid that I flipped down, and I actually drew the whole map of the fairy kingdom on the back of this box. And so I'm like, maybe I need to start doing that with some of these comics. It's just, like, make my own maps of, like, how all of this works out, and then I'll be able to keep up with it. Because some of it I was like, I have no idea what? Okay, I gotta put this over here. Like, I need the Usher of the Dead to come in and make me a map for everybody. Essentially. Like, because I'm here for your story. I think it's beautiful. I want to read it, but I need a map. Maps are great. Give me maps.
They definitely need one going into issue 2, because the tail end of this, they're like, hey, we gotta go tell these people and go warn this guy and let this person know that this is happening. I'm like, whoa. Let's pick one thing and focus on that next issue, and then we can go off and tell these other people what's going on.
I'm going to throw this next book to you. This is Fox and Hare #1 from Vault.
Yes, this is a book that I was actually very excited for coming down the line, and that's mainly just because I was on one of the Vault Whatnot sales, and they were talking about this book. One of the Vossel brothers was talking about this being kind of one of the next big titles that they were really excited about. So this takes place in a futuristic world and follows these 2 friends who grow up to be mercenaries, and they are going to complete a mission at an old laboratory. Essentially, some of the backstory involving their parents is about this factory that was kidnapping parents and kids, and they would just kind of disappear. And so while they are going to this factory to check it out, they find this coder and end up saving her life, and it kind of sets them off on this, hey, there's this kind of seedy underbelly that we need to figure out what's going on. And it's really great because they have, one of the cool things about this book is they can implant these, like, combat chips and, like, things that they can implant into their system to kind of, like, help them with their mercenary work. And I like this. I mean, this is typically one of, like, those, like, action-packed futuristic stories. Big corporation is doing something really crazy and we got to figure it out. That's going to be tied to their past. But I think this is going to be really fun. The colors are great. The art is wonderful. And very much like some of these other stories, they're introducing you to characters that are going to play out in this world. So it's one of those where, like, I really hope the world building takes place with this book in particular, because there's so many cool characters. Like, I even kind of want, like, maybe some mini-series as well to go along with this, just because I think they can do so much with it. It's like when you see, kind of like when you saw the first Blade Runner movie and you were like, wow, I really want to see where they take this world. How do you open this world up? And I think they can really do that with the Fox and Hare, because the two main characters are great. It has so many wonderful things that I like about this book in particular. It hits all the points for me, with everything that's going on. Like the coder even is like that kind of quirky, like I think I'm cooler than I actually am. We'll probably get knocked down a few pegs throughout. But yeah, I want to see them build this world out a ton because of all the really cool characters that they're introducing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You nailed
like
it.
this guy. This guy who has like access to coding, or he can do cool stuff. I don't know. It just seems like it's gonna be fun. If you like Blade Runner or The Matrix or any of that kind of stuff, it's gonna tie into that.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Fox and the Hare. It's a new Vault title. Definitely check it out. We're big supporters of Vault.
Absolutely. I should have worn my shirt. If I had known we had so many Vault titles this week, I would have worn my Vault shirt. Also, if you're a small press publisher and you make shirts, please comment on this, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. I don't really care, because Phil, myself, and Matt all love to buy shirts from small press publishers and wear the shit out of them.
I just like buying shirts.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
I just like buying shirts.
We just like,
Especially comic shirts.
but if you have them, we love to wear them, especially on the live stream. We like to put out the shirts for all the publishers. So if you're a small press publisher and you have shirts, we would love to see them. If you have hats, Phil will wear it all the time. So will Matt. So, throw us a link if you're a small press publisher.
Yeah, definitely.
We love to represent. I'm going to go, wait, no, you just did one. So I'll do one so it doesn't end up like.
So I can get up?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I can hold the book if you need to. Up next is the recount preamble from Scout Comics. This is essentially a prequel to the recount. It's an oversized issue. If you did not read the recount, and you've never seen this live stream, I called the recount one of the scariest books I've ever read in my life. It's Jonathan Hedrick, and it is the story of essentially, what if the people who didn't like the results of the presidential election decided to create a purge against everybody who voted for the other candidate? And that actually came out on election day last year.
Oh, that feels like it hits too close.
It hit very close to home. It was very terrifying. And thankfully, because of the Scout 2-month delay, we didn't get the second issue of the recount on Inauguration Day, because that would have been very ill-timed. This goes back in time and kind of tells us a little bit about the characters and how we get to the situation that leads to what happens in the recount. So we follow along literally from the birth of this child to when he becomes a military person, to when he becomes a senator, to when he starts running for president, and how it leads to or vice president, I guess I should say, and how it leads to him being connected and the rise of these people in the recount situation. It is a very intense book. The recount is not if you're hey, why are politics in comics? Maybe don't read the recount. Also, don't read comics. Period. If you are definitely somebody who is into political comics, this is definitely going to be one that you want to read. It is intense. It's a strong, fast-moving story, but this does kind of show you the background of all of how this comes to pass in the recount, and it's a great prequel for how that leads up to that. So you should definitely read it. Jonathan Hedrick did a great job, and Jonathan Hedrick and our buddy J2 and I interviewed Jonathan Hedrick, and Jonathan Hedrick was like, there is no which side of the fence this is on. You're never gonna have this is what side of the fence these people are on, or this or that. He's like, I left it completely ambiguous. It could be anybody, because the truth of the matter is that the way politics are going in our country, it could be anybody at any time.
Right.
And I want you to know that you should be questioning everything. And I was like, that's a really good message for your comic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't read this because I never read the recount, but if I would have known this was the prequel,
You could read it.
I would have started here and then slowly worked my way towards reading it. But I do remember when it came out, J2 was talking very highly about it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to read this because it feels too real. You know, it was very much like when AWA started putting out the Resistance stuff.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I don't want to read this because it hits too close to home right now. But yeah, I do eventually want to read it. I like the art. Jonathan Hendricks seems like a very talented writer.
Oh, yeah,
so-
and a very fun person to
Yeah.
talk to. Do you actually want to get up? Because Nigel read this book. So if you
Yeah, but
do
yes.
need like a moment, like I will
Nigel
gladly
in.
bring Nigel in. Here, Nigel, you can take my seat. Whoa! This is how short your seat is. Oh my
That's
god.
why I look so short all the time.
Yeah. Robert Turner said the recount does feel really real, and I know you've been reading the whole thing from the beginning. Nigel and I were really excited about 5 Bullets, 6 Men from Source Point Press. This is the whole thing. It's actually $9.99. It's a whole, essentially graphic novel almost of a story from them. But this is a noir story from Todd Black and Alex Garcia, and it is a noir thriller graphic novel. And I love that they say it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and I feel like that's actually an accurate, for once, reference for this book. But it is entirely black and white. And Nigel, you would tell me.
I wouldn't have wanted it to be in color, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a murder mystery. You pretty much following from the perspective of a detective who's been called in to figure out a murder from these crime bosses, essentially. And he kind of breaks down and analyzes the crime scene and the suspects, possibly. And he's also trying to interview some witnesses, but the witnesses aren't really cooperating. And it's trying to figure out why, who sort of set this sort of crime scene into motion, and yeah.
Yeah, I love it because it's all at one poker table in one bar, and all 5 of the major crime bosses were all shot and killed, but there's no sign of a struggle. Nobody got another shot off.
Right.
Like there's no elements that would prove that there was a sixth man at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody, like Nigel said, nobody from the bar has anything to do with it, and they don't seem to know anything.
And the title of the book, 5 Bullets, 6 Men, comes from, it was a revolver, and there's 6 chambers in it, and it only had 5 cartridges, so they didn't load up a 5th one because they didn't need it.
Right, it's like this person knew exactly how, and they even say that, like, this person knew exactly how many people were gonna be at this table and how they were gonna like kill, how they would have to act to kill every single person. And it's super cool because this is like our best detective. He's so good at it, and he goes through, I love the way they set it up because he shows up at the crime scene, he goes through everything, and then I'm actually gonna see if I can find one of the pages like this where he's like, hey, and then they killed the Don. And it's like, okay, who's the Don? And then the next chapter is all about the Don and his story. And it's like, okay, this is the rise of the Don. This is how, like, this godfather of the crime lords, like, got into where he is. And then we do actually get to find out who it is. And I obviously don't want to spoil that for you.
I thought
anyway.
I knew what was going to happen. I thought I saw the twist coming, and you said yourself you didn't think that was
Yeah,
gonna happen.
you're like, oh, this is, like, you're, like, trying to figure it out the whole time. So you're sitting there and you're going through it, and you're like, oh, it was this person. Like, guarantee. And then you get to the next chapter, and you're like, okay, it was this person. And then you're like, I got it. And then they tell you the solution, and you're like, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Like, and yet, now that they told me, 100% got it. Really, really great noir story. If you're a fan of, like, the Reckless books or anything like Brubaker and you haven't picked this up, I 100% recommend that you grab this book because this is a really, really, really good crime noir, and it's the whole thing. It's $10, but it is listed as a graphic novel because it is a graphic novel. It's got the whole story in it. It's really good.
Yeah, fun read.
Yeah. Thanks for reading it with me, Nigel. I was like, I need somebody to read this book with me.
I mean, I wanted to read it regardless
I
if you
know.
would put it in my lap or not.
I know, but I was like, read it, because Phil's not going to have time to read this, and I need somebody to read it with me. But Phil did have time to read Never Ender from Behemoth, issue 1.
Yes, I blindly love everything Behemoth. God bless the ring. That's what it says on the back of this book. I'm not saying that randomly. This
I
is.
thought you were. I didn't know if that's on the back of the
really?
book. Yeah,
Yeah.
I looked to
Well,
see.
they say it several times throughout. This is one of those like very jam-packed sci-fi books where it's like we're gonna throw a whole bunch at you in a very kind of wonderful way. I'm gonna be honest. So this is kind of the story of what if Earth, which they refer to as Terra, Terae, basically what if it's become uninhabitable and the poor people had to move underground and find ways to kind of make it livable, and then we have found a way to monetize space travel. Like, the only way that you can travel into space is if you have the money to do it. So this follows the story of a young kind of he's like almost like a Jason Todd type character of being picking fights, has a long streak of, I like this page, I think it's really cool. He kind of has this like long rap sheet, and everyone is like, you're never gonna amount to anything, you're gonna die down here like the rest of us. And he's like, no, I'm going to space, I'm gonna change things, I'm meant for something bigger than this. So you kind of get this story of this young kid Merrick, but also at the same time you're kind of building out this world of like what's going on, how's the rich dealing with this, the government side of it. Kind of like there's a lot of information in this book. Like I'm pretty sure it's slightly oversized.
Yeah.
But they jam pack a lot into this.
This is one of those books where I thought I was getting to the end and then I was at the staple line. If that tells you anything about where this book is, I was like, oh, great. I'm almost to the end of issue 1. And then I hit the staple line and I was like, I am nowhere near the end of issue 1. And I was like, well, maybe they have a lot of ads at the end. So I flipped to the back and I was like, there are not really any ads at the end. Yeah. Okay, we got a lot more story to go. And I'm kind of curious where it's going to go.
I'm also kind of curious how long it's going to take them to get to that point.
Yes.
Because it definitely feels like they were building outwards instead of upwards. They were like, let's see how far we can expand this before we actually move the story forward. Obviously, by the end of this issue, they do kind of kick off what you're going to expect the story to be. But I love the world building. I think the art's great in here. And in the very beginning, they talk about, like, in space you can duel. There's, like, a duel that you can have with somebody else, and they, like, explain the rules. So I'm really looking forward to that kind of playing into this. The art style kind of makes me feel like I almost want to see this like an anime. A little bit.
Absolutely.
But I'm on board for this. I really, really enjoy everything that this book has. Very much like a lot of those other high concept sci-fi stories, I feel like there's a lot that I'm going to be like, wait, what exactly is going on? Who is this person again? And what is their role in this whole story? But I'm here for it, you know? I'm here to take on this task because what it's packaged in is very beautiful. But yeah, it's Behemoth.
Right, so Phil's in no matter what.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you to buy it no matter what because it's Behemoth.
And I actually commented that on the guy in charge at Behemoth. He had a post about how they did for, because each month they send out the numbers from Diamond that's like, hey, these are the top books. And a couple months back, we talked about on live stream, Behemoth was in like the top 5 or 6 or something like that.
That's right.
And we talked about it on the live stream, and I commented on it. I was like, hey, as far as our live stream and our store is concerned, if it's Behemoth, you need to buy it. And they were like, oh my god, are you serious? That's amazing. And I'm like, no, yes. Like, we 100%, if it's Behemoth, we're just like, you should just read it. And I have certain subscribers who I just give them every cover of every Behemoth book, and they just blindly buy it. They're just like, I'm in, whatever it is. I'm like, do you want to know what it's about? And they're like, no. I don't care. I'm going to be in.
Well, one thing for me that Behemoth has really proven, and it continues with this book, is the artists that they are able to get are really fantastic. And it's a lot of the art styles that I personally am really into.
And this is writer and artist, same person on this book.
I love that.
This is,
that's right.
And it is, you already put it over there, it is Devin Kraft. And we have a customer that comes in here who's also working, has a couple of books that are hopefully coming out soon, and we've got some PDFs that you and I are going to look over for them. But they actually said they think that Devin might be local because they are friends with Devin, and they were like, I think Devin might be local. So Devin may or may not be Austin, but is connected to a lot of Austin creators. A lot of Austin creators know Devin Crafts, so I'm kind of like, hey, are you local? Because we're here for you, Devin.
We are here to support your book like crazy.
Yes, which would make sense because Behemoth is a Dallas company, so...
I did not know that.
Yeah, Behemoth is based in Dallas, and it says that on all of the books. Like true Texans, it says on all of the books that they are based in Dallas, Texas.
Literally everybody knows that.
Except for me.
Except for Phil. And it might
it
actually...
says All Hail Behemoth. That's
it
a
does
shirt
say
I need.
All Hail Behemoth.
Let
Can
me
you
get a
make
shirt.
that as a shirt?
All Hail Behemoth.
Oh my gosh.
That's the shirt I need.
And this one actually doesn't have the Sumerian records. Like, Sumerian has bought, like, them... kind of thing. Oh, but look, they have ads for bands in it now.
And there you go. They're doing,
New album, like they have ads for the albums that are coming out in the back now instead of the comics. And this is an ad for a show that's going to be on Prime Video. So, all right,
Look.
Behemoth, we're starting to see some ads for all the Sumerian stuff.
Thank you, Sumerian, for making this happen.
I was
Because
very excited.
one of those ads is Animals as Leaders. And if there was ever a band that could easily make the soundtrack to a comic for you, it's those guys.
That said, if you want to let like James E. Hall or Billy Corgan write a comic, I'll buy it. I'm just saying, you've got Smashing Pumpkins, you've got Behemoth. If they want, we already have Poppy graphic novels, so I'm not like pushing for that because I know she's on Sumerian Records. But if Billy Corgan wants to write a graphic novel about shapeshifters taking over the world, I'm here for it.
I mean, if you've seen pictures of Billy Corgan recently, he looks like a comic book villain.
I've seen Billy Corgan recently, so...
Oh, okay. I mean, I haven't seen him in person, but I've seen photos of him, and I'm like, this guy is terrifying.
Oh, he has a tea shop in Chicago. We should go.
Does he really?
Yeah, it's called Madame Zuzu's. If you guys are in the Chicago area, you should go to Billy Corgan's. It's in Evanston, Illinois. Which is where...
Highland Park.
Oh, it's in Highland Park. I thought it was... Yeah. Is it Highland Park?
It's Highland Park.
Highland Park. Okay. Anyway, Code 45 from Scout Comics. This is issue 1. What do you got for me, Phil?
Yeah, so this is the story of a girl who has taken on the job of being a subway driver. Train driver. Mm-hmm. Train driver. And this is in a world where supposedly dragons
are in the subway
tunnels. We're not 100% sure if that's the case, because she says that very few people have ever seen them.
And she doesn't seem to necessarily, like, believe or not believe, but she goes out to a rave at night, and she's like, I'm gonna, like, get in and, like, hang out with my friends and just, like, live my life.
Yeah.
And we, as readers, know more than apparently everybody in the book does, which I love. Dramatic irony is a thing that I am totally in for. If you want to tell me everything that they don't know so that I can spend the whole time. Also, is that a Clerks movie poster?
Yeah, so I actually wrote in my notes. I was letting you, I didn't want to interrupt you because Matt was waving at me to...
No, go ahead. Have your moment.
There is the small snippet of a Clerks poster in this, so I'm assuming that either writer or artist is also a Kevin Smith fan. So I'll probably blindly support this book.
Right, so Phil's 100% whether your book ends up being good or not. However, this book is good.
Yeah. I was surprised by it because I like the character is kind of like the shy, quiet, like she doesn't really like going out and doing stuff.
So this book is about Phil. It is the story of somebody who works really hard and shows up to work every day and just does their job and does it to the best and is always willing to cover everybody else's shift and do their job. But when their friends are like, hey, you should come to this thing, they're like, I think I'd rather go home and just spend time, like, doing nothing. And their friends are literally begging for this girl to come out, and, like, they say no, and then they finally come out, and dragons are there at the party. So you know what?
There's a reason I don't go out.
I will bring a dragon if you will show up to the next party.
There could be dragons here. And...
If you show up to the next party I throw, I will bring a dragon.
That's a tall order.
I mean, a tall, fire-breathing dragon order. Also, can we talk Mandela effect about dragons really fast? Because today I told Megan Hutchinson Cates that it was the guy who was the skeezy salesman in Pete's Dragon is the narrator of the Harry Potter like audiobooks. And she was like, "You mean Puff the Magic Dragon?" I was like, "No, that's a Mandela effect. Puff the Magic Dragon is a song by Peter, Paul, and Mary,
Right.
and Pete's Dragon is a Disney movie." I just had to throw that out there because nobody knows that those two things
I
are
never
separate.
thought that was Puff the Magic Dragon.
Everybody does, and I have this argument all the time. Pete's Dragon is the movie. Puff the Magic Dragon is a song. That's because you only listen to oldies music. You don't count. You're not a normal human, Nigel.
Like my
But I've
parents
also-
taught me that.
Yeah.
I watched Pete's Dragon. I watched Pete's Dragon a lot. as a kid.
Anyway, if you go to a rave, dragons will show up and possibly kill you. Who knows?
But I'm also intrigued because there's a drug that's being passed around with
Yes.
a dragon symbol on it. So that kind of was like, ooh, this is something that I'm slightly interested in and kind of intrigued by and curious about moving forward.
I'm in for this book. And
I am too.
Scout's doing a really good job of blending like fantasy and reality in a way that I am actually intrigued.
Yeah, and I remember picking this up and like, I am the kind of person that sometimes I'll see the title of a book and I'm like, that doesn't really like sound great to me. And so going into this was like, I'm not going to enjoy this. There's a dragon on the cover. And
I didn't even notice the dragon on the cover.
Yeah, I know. I noticed the dragon on the cover, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is going to be some like Narnia type thing where
'Cause they
she
go in the subway and
travels
then
through
they
the
end up
sub."
in Narnia?
Yeah, that was my
Mhm.
concern. It was going to be like this kind of like ragtag team of like a DJ and his little group of friends, and it turned out to be a whole lot better. Like I'm
better.
totally on board for
Yeah.
that one.
I'm like, should I ramble for a little bit longer? We have a moment before Matt comes back. So lastly, for our number 1/one shots category is, and I feel like so many new number ones are coming out all the time that we need to make a whole slide just for number ones.
Yeah.
But this is from Source Point Press, and this is Nightmare Man, and this is a one-shot, which I'm actually disappointed is a one-shot after reading it. I actually kind of want to see more of the Nightmare Man.
I'm glad you said that because I didn't even notice it was a one shot.
Yeah.
And I got to the end and I was like, okay, so where does this go from here?
Yeah, I actually wish there was somewhere it
Same.
could go because I want to
Yeah.
be friends with the Nightmare Man.
I mean,
I just need to have coffee with him like this whole book is. So, this is a one-shot from Source Point Press, and it is all about a guy who's in therapy and is telling his therapist that he goes for coffee every morning, and while he's at coffee, he swears the guy from his nightmares as a child is in the same coffee shop as him.
and by the way, he looks like Lemmy from Motorhead.
Fair.
So imagine if you're in a coffee shop and you're like Lemmy from Motorhead.
Is sitting right there,
It's
and I
sitting
swear
right
to God,
there.
he's from my nightmares as a child,
Yes.
which is fair, also in and
Yes.
of itself. And so this guy is like telling his therapist that, and his therapist like, there's no way the guy from your nightmares is A, real, and B, sitting in the coffee shop where
Right.
you as an adult are participating as and enjoying coffee. So you know what you need to do, because this is the way therapists work, is they're like, you need to confront your fears. So you need to go over to this man and tell him, I know you're not real, but but my brain is telling me you're the guy from my nightmares. So that's what he does. He goes over to the guy from his nightmares and says, hey, I think you're the guy from my nightmares, but you're a regular person, aren't you? And I love that his ambiguous answer is, I am. And the guy's like, oh, see, I knew it. You're just a regular person. He goes, no, I am the man from your nightmares. And he's like, what the hell does that mean? Are you making fun of me? And the guy's like, no, I am the Nightmare Man.
Yeah.
And then he tells him the whole story about, like, his job as Nightmare Man and basically what that entails.
I do enjoy, though, that his name's not Nightmare Man. That's the name that was given to him.
As a
and
kid.
even he brings it up to the guy, and he's like, that's what you've been calling me
That's
this
the best
whole
thing
time.
you could come up with, like, after all these years.
Yeah.
But I'm so disappointed that this is a one shot because I really want a whole ongoing series about the Nightmare Man now.
He's such an asshole.
He's such an asshole, but he's such a great character for a story. And just him, like, telling a story, like, you know, did you see Rock of Ages?
Yeah, a long time
Okay,
ago.
so I imagine Tom Cruise as, like, the rock star, like, sitting there
my
telling him the
gosh.
story, like, you can't trap the
Yes.
Fire Phoenix, man. Like, that's how I heard the Nightmare Man talking the whole time. And I'm in.
Yeah.
Also, that's the only Tom Cruise performance I ever need to, like, see again is him bringing back, like, the the guy from Rock of Ages.
I mean, I assume you're going to go see the new Top Gun.
I've heard only incredible things about it, and I'm really surprised.
Why would you be surprised?
I'm not a Miles Teller fan. I am a huge Top Gun fan. I grew up a Top Gun fan. That's actually true. My dad showed me Top Gun when I was very young, and every time my dad got a new sound system, he used Top Gun to test it.
Of course, you have to.
And so, like, to the point where he was testing it one time, and he had it so loud that my brother, like, we opened the door and my brother was lying on the ground outside because he thought the planes from the airport that was only like a few miles from my dad's were crashing. Anyway, I am actually a huge Top Gun fan. I am a very resounding vote against Miles Teller, though. So
okay, out of curiosity, why? Because I also saw someone the other day say that they were anti Miles Teller. But I don't know anything about Miles Teller.
So I'm against Miles Teller because Miles Teller was really, really rude about being in young adult fiction movies, which is what made him famous. He was in, like, Divergent and things like that.
Yeah, I remember him in Divergent.
Was really, really condescending towards the source material. Was like, oh, well, maybe if this book was actually well written and, like, YA was, like, a good source material, I could actually have a role worth playing. And the character that he had was actually a really, really good character from the Divergent series, but he did a terrible job playing it and then blamed the source material. And was just really, really condescending towards the YA genre the entire time he did it. I think most people don't like him because they think Fantastic Four Stick was bad. But I actually don't. Think most of the Fantastic Four movie that he was in was terrible. I think it fell apart in the movie. I don't think the movie as a whole was terrible. But he's really, really rude towards YA. And as a YA writer, I was really offended by his extreme condescension towards the entire world, like, of YA. I thought it wasn't necessary. Like, just admit that you didn't do anything. Like, also, that was, like, maybe script writing, but it wasn't like you can't blame the entire genre of YA.
Yeah.
Go read the book.
Okay.
Anyway, Nightmare Man from Source Point Press was fantastic, and don't cast Miles Teller in the movie version when you make it.
Well, I mean, who would he play?
He's not the guy from Penn and Teller.
He is not.
I just looked that up. He's not the same guy.
No, that's Mr. Fantastic in the Fantastic Four movie with Michael B. Jordan.
He didn't know because Teller doesn't talk, and
I told you when we watched that movie, it works really well for me because Miles Teller is a jerk, and so is Mr. Fantastic, and most of the adaptations that, like, or most of the
don't
comics.
Remember his name being Miles Teller. I just looked it up, guys. It's not the guy.
I thought it was one guy. I thought it was
Penn
Penn Teller.
Oh, well, you guys are both really struggling
used to watch
over
that
there.
In college.
We gotta. This
Penn
is why.
Obviously short for Benjamin.
So
bullshit.
This is why Nigel and Matt are behind the camera and not on the camera during these things, because
awesome.
I don't know what part of that was worse.
Are you being serious?
He is.
I had no idea.
This is the same man that just learned he couldn't board a baby.
You heard about Penn Teller like a long time ago, right?
Yeah, like we watched that in college.
All right, so but you just think you're like, ooh, they put Teller in Top Gun.
I don't know. I thought he was like the old like MI6
the guy who never talks on TV. You thought like he's gonna be
he talks.
No, Teller doesn't talk. That's this whole thing. Penn is the one that talks.
Yeah,
Penn.
Pen's the one with the ponytail that does all the talking.
This is bullshit.
Yeah,
that's
guy.
Penn.
But Teller
and then the other
doesn't
guy goes, "Oh yeah, I guess it kind of is bullshit."
No, he only does that in interviews sometimes.
Yeah.
His whole shtick during the thing is that he doesn't talk during the actual magic show. Anyway, we just learned that Nigel and Matt both don't know
magic show. They talk about bullshit on TV.
That's the show.
Penn
That's the
and
show.
Teller are magicians.
Yeah, but you're talking about a show called Bullshit.
Yeah.
Penn and Teller's bullshit, where they call things bullshit.
Right, but the only reason anybody knows who they are is
Since
because they had a
they've been
Vegas
on-stage
magic show.
musicians.
Really?
Yeah.
They're huge in the
I
world
only
of
know
magic.
them as that bullshit where they talk about normal
that's
things.
a
They're like
great
milk.
show.
It is a great show.
Great
It is a
show.
great show.
Water is bullshit.
I don't know that show. I
Really?
only know them as magicians.
It was like old HBO, wasn't
I
it?
think
I
so.
mean, it was like mid 2000s, right?
Oh, well, see, that's where you lost me because y'all had cable in the 2000s.
That's true.
I didn't have
It's all on YouTube now.
See,
Yes.
I really only knew Miles Teller from the drumming movie he was
Which
in.
I never got to see that, and I'm a huge
was
J.K.
so
Simmons
good.
fan, so I'm very
It was
upset that I
so
never got to see that. Yeah, Jerry
Whiplash.
just made the best
Whiplash.
comment. Jerry said that is a magic show, but this is now a comedy show. And that is true. Are we not always funny, Jerry? Because I thought we were hilarious.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of my jokes don't land here.
Where do you want to go first? That's fair. Where do you want to go first? Okay, so we got...
Ouch! God.
Anyway, we are on our second bottle of wine. It's called Vino. It is from the Columbia Valley, which we have learned when it comes to wine from the Columbia Valley. This is actually probably from Washington State. Oh, it is! Columbia Valley, Washington. This is a Cab half, 68% Cab Sav, 32% Sangiovese, which I've never even heard of. But you know what? It's Colombian from the Italian-inspired, locally produced in the state of Washington.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Jerry said we always make him laugh. Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we got some picks of the week for you. Which one
I
do you
say
want
we
to start?
go 1, 2, 3.
All right. Oh, man. We're getting intense on you real fast. Go for it. We've got issue 1 of New Think from AWA Upshot, which if you're an old member of our show, you can just go ahead and take your drink right now.
Also, I thought this was just a one-shot.
It is not. This is listed as a Black Mirror style anthology, which is how most people have come in and bought this book this week because they heard it was a Black Mirror style anthology. Also, Mike Deodato Jr. on art, which you can tell by the paneling.
Yes.
Is a standard for AWA Upshot books at this point. But this first issue, kind of like the recount, is terrifying in a very real way.
Way too close to home.
Welcome to our live show on the internet, where I'm going to explain to you that according to this book, we allowed alien species of computers to take over our entire world.
That are called screens with a K.
With a K.
Yeah.
We gave them altars, we gave them shrines, we dedicated our lives to them, and now that we have literally put them in our pockets and given them all of the power, they don't even have to work to take over. We even do their upgrades for them.
Yeah, we do everything for them, and we don't even know it.
We don't even know
It's great because it's an alien invasion story where it works, and it's not because we resisted them. It's just because we accidentally blindly gave in to them.
All of the power. And as you're reading it, like every page, you're like, oh shit. Oh damn. Oh my god, I did it again.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And I was cracking up because you gave this to Nigel to read after you read it. Nigel read it and then walked into the main room of the store and got on his cell phone. And I was like, how can you be on your cell phone after reading New Thing?
And then what did you do after you said that?
I got on my cell phone. But when I finished reading New Thing, I flipped my cell phone over and moved it away from me. And I'm like, how can you do that? And I'm like literally on my phone, like searching comic book news at the time. But I was like, it's the whole idea. This is another one of those reality-based, weird, like kind of fiction, like fictional, realistic fiction books from AWA Upshot that makes you go, oh my god, I've done everything wrong.
Yeah.
And they are so good at that. And it's so well done.
Yeah, I was really impressed by this just because, like, you are sitting here, and they refer to us as slaves the whole time, and it's just like, you know what, I do sometimes feel like a slave to my phone because of how much I'm on it, how many notifications I'm getting.
I mean, I've made my career as a social media marketer for the last, 10 years. Like, my entire life, is glued to this. To the point where I had to buy a better phone because they stopped upgrading the ones that I had. And I was like, I can't do my job anymore. And then I'm like, oh, I'm buying new phones. And I love that they even did the letter from the author, like, as text messages. The cover is incredibly well done with, like, the Garden of Eden. And instead of it being the apple of the fruit hanging there, it's an iPhone. Yeah. Essentially with the apple on it. And that's what Adam and Eve are walking towards. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is so freaking good.
Yeah, this was one that I was, like, really, really impressed by. And I was like, oh, it's a great one-shot. Now that I know this is going to be a Black Mirror anthology, I'm, like, even more excited. This, to me, actually felt like at times I was reading a Mark Russell book. Where I was like, wow, okay, whoever this is either really loves Mark Russell, and it's somebody who's done work before. Greg Hurwitz. Like, I've seen that name a bunch of times. But that's what it felt like. It really felt like somebody who saw the great social commentary that Mark Russell's doing in comics and was like, we can do something like that. I mean, that's what Black Mirror is in a way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I highly recommend picking this one up. And I'm somebody who typically doesn't lean towards AWA.
But you do now.
But I have been recently, and I think this is another one of those where it's like, hop on board issue 1, check it out, and maybe by the end of this, you will not pick up your phone as much.
And I mean, to use my phone to tell you the answer, Greg Horace actually is a huge novelist who does a lot of thriller novels.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
And he's done some like DC, like he did some Dark Knight and some detective comics. He actually did the Penguin Pain and Prejudice series back in 2011.
Okay. Yeah.
And he did Fool Killer for Marvel and some other like random Marvel like one shots and stuff, but mostly is a thriller novelist, which makes total sense because this has that entire like thriller experience the whole time.
Yeah.
See, there's your issue 2. It's gonna, oh my god.
And the art changes too, so it looks like it's gonna be different artists on each one. That's really cool.
I'm really excited to see where this goes. I am the opposite of you. I will 100% blindly buy anything from AWA Upshot. They have never disappointed me. I think the lowest book from AWA still ranks higher than a lot of like highest books from other publishers a lot of times in my world. And this feels like a return to that first wave of AWA though. Or to the Not All Robots even of last year. Which Not All Robots was the first one that kind of felt like a return to that first wave of AWA where they were like everything is a commentary on society. Right. And if you enjoyed Not All Robots and like you said, anything Mark Russell, and you have to buy this book. Mm-hmm. And if you enjoy that first wave of AWA Upshot, like you need to buy this book because it's right on par with all of that commentary that AWA does, which is why I love AWA so much. That realistic fiction that just is like, hey, by the way, we messed it up for ourselves, which is the number one message of all things AWA is we did this to ourselves. And it's very much there. And I've had so many people come in this week that are like, oh my God, you have New Think on your shelf. Like, I have to grab it. And I'm like, yes, you are my people. Let's go. Yeah. You said this one next and then this one?
Yeah, I figured.
I don't know which is that the way you wanted to go?
Yeah, let's do it that way.
This goes with that. So this is actually from last week, but we are doing 2 weeks together. This is Aftershock. It's a one shot. From Aftershock, and it's called Spectro, and it is 4 terrifying tales rooted in a cosmic game of twisted karma and phantasmagoric horror, and that is a better description than I could ever possibly give this anthology. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely nails it on the head and lets you know exactly what you're getting into. I feel like I saw the cover of this book and was like, this is obviously going to be a pick of the week. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind.
Matt said that when he saw the cover.
Yeah, it's oversized. It's got that kind of Daniel Clowes style cover.
It reminded me of Phantasma from the Golden Age, which has nothing to do with the actual story, and I was really hoping for a Phantasma story. That's not what it is. It's basically, no matter how far into the future we go, humans are still terrible and we're going to fuck everything up.
Yeah, so you're going to get four stories here. The first one is of a guy who decides to lose weight using basically a smart scale, where it's like this scale over 30 days is going to fit you to an exact regimen. And in the end, you're going to look like a certain real well-buffed version of yourself. And of course, in human fashion, we're going to screw that up.
And really, like, I would like to preface this as, A, don't believe any number on a scale. B, don't fall into fad diets. And C, this is like kind of your warning story of not doing that. Because he goes out one time in the whole 30 days and is like, hey, I'm just going to go see my sister who I haven't seen in like 6 months. Goes to dinner and the scale is like, you have failed me. Yeah. And it basically, in horror story fashion, is like, now you have to take those ounces off your body in some other way. And the way that does it, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. This is exactly what I wanted this book to be. Yeah. And yet at the same time, like, oh my God, I can't believe you just actually went there. Like, because that's where I wanted you to go, but I didn't think you would.
Right. And they did. They did so well. And so, like, I remember we were talking and you were like, if you get to this book, I just need you to read that first one.
And you kept going.
And then I kept
I'm so
going.
proud that you kept going.
And this second story is basically if the planets were an Illuminati style secret society that has all their goal is to make sure that over the centuries science progresses forward in some way, shape, or form. And the great thing is this whole little story is about how
Pluto's not a planet anymore.
Is no longer a planet anymore, so that they are going to remove Pluto from the secret society.
And Pluto has an opinion about that.
Yeah, Pluto's really not okay with them feeling that way. And
neither am I, Pluto, so cheers to you, my planet.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because Pluto is a fucking badass warrior.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, and what I love is at the end of it, Pluto steps down after just massacring all the other planets, and it's like, hey, I may not be a planet anymore, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I exist.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like, deal with it.
Like, I might not be a planet anymore, but it's not like I went away. And I just thought that was such a like fun, little, weird, interesting way to go about that story.
Such a weird way to go about that story, and I love it. And I do have to say, this is actually Spectro is by Wando, who did Bad Reception, and I should have brought that trade with me because I think I have one in stock, but I think it's not actually out, so don't go. No, it's not. I don't think it's out. But Bad Reception is actually one of my favorite Aftershock titles I never knew came out, and I did not read it until it was in trade form. And it's kind of like a Harper's Island, people stuck on an island during a wedding reception, and there's like a murder that happens, and they're all being like picked off like one by one, and like their cell phones are basically like giving them
weird.
away. It's so freaking good. If you haven't read Bad Reception, I'll lend you a copy.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it after the fact that it was coming out. Because it was one of those Aftershock books that kind of flew under the radar.
It flew under the radar.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I feel like we get a lot of that same kind of social commentary. This book, this particular story that you're on, it's all about a really, really rich person who was like, I'm going to be the first person to climb Olympus Mons on Mars. Yeah. And nobody's going to stop me from doing that. And uses all of their money and all of their, like, resources to become the person to climb Olympus Mons on Mars. And the twist on that one I don't even want to give away because it's such a good story. Yeah, like you have to skip ahead because I was like you were like, well, the third one, and I was like, the third one is, and I was like, oh yeah, that story was super good. And then the last story is your typical sci-fi, like alien, but it is all about like, at the same time, it is almost a Me Too message of, like, nobody's going to believe you because you're a woman.
Right.
And I'm using you specifically because I can take over the entire planet of Earth because nobody on the planet Earth believes women.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're the most renowned scientist on Earth. I'm going to prove that nobody believes women by using you as my thing. And which is what I love about this book. This book was so good. Absolutely recommend. If you didn't grab a copy, this is one of the best one-shots that's come out since the Peter Milligan one.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I feel like we've kind of gotten to a point where comic book publishers and creators are really good at the anthologies. I feel like we've mastered the anthology concept in comics. And so, like, let's keep doing stuff like this, you know.
I did talk to my Aftershock ambassador because they said, what's the hardest thing for you to sell? And I said, honestly and truthfully, like, it's hard to get people to buy the oversized prestige format books because they don't fit in treasury bags and boards. They're kind of magazine size. They don't really fit, but they don't fit in any short boxes or long boxes unless you want to buy a magazine size. So I did tell them that a lot of you are like, oh, when it's a big size, like, I want to read it, but I don't want to buy it. And I am still like, hey, come here and read it because I just want to talk to you about it. I don't care. Like, grab a copy and sit at the counter and read it because I just need to talk to people about this book.
Yeah.
But it is, I know that a lot of people are like, I don't know how to store them. They do fit sideways in a short box or a long box. Doesn't really matter. You can fit them in there sideways. A lot of times you can actually fit them on the side of your books. that are already going the normal way
Right.
in your shorter long boxes, but we do have a couple people who have bought in short boxes, regular size short boxes, and are just like, I'm gonna store all my one shocks and stuff sideways. But I did let Aftershock know that is a thing that people are like, I'm really into these anthologies that Aftershock is doing, but I don't have a way to store them, so I don't want to buy them. The same with the DC Black Label.
Yeah.
It's like, I really, like, we have so many people who are like, I want to read Rogues, but I have nowhere to put it. And I can't store it.
I like the Catwoman.
The Catwoman Lonely City. Yeah. And so I do have a lot of people who are constantly asking for those books, but are like, but I can't actually take them in the end when they see that they come out in the oversized. So we're listening. If that's a problem you have, like, comment, let us know, because we want to keep passing that information on to people. I love the oversized book.
I do too.
Because Matt describes it the best. Matt always says it's kind of like reading a comic in IMAX format.
Yeah.
And it really, especially with something like this with Spectro,
art.
like, you need it to be that big. It really made the story feel even more impactful.
Yeah.
I'd hate to lose that. But if you're somebody who's like, I won't buy it because that's big, let us know. I do appreciate Scout, like with Corset, they made it in both formats.
Right.
So it's like, if you want the big size, you can buy it in the big size, or you could buy it in the single issue. And that's something like I'm not opposed to either. Like, give me both sizes. So for me, I wanted to read Corset in the big size and see it in that prestige format. Also, I just really wanted to touch that beautiful soft Scout prestige format paper. But if you're like, I'm against it, they still have a regular comic size version.
Yeah, but just come in and like read one or two of the stories. You don't have to read all four of them, but I mean, they're all four great stories.
They're all great.
With great art. I mean, just fantastic.
Yeah. Lastly, pick of the week, shocking to no human on the planet, is James Tynion, issue 1 of The Closet.
Yes.
Shocker, James Tynion made his issue 1 of a new series, made Pick of the Week. Who is surprised by this?
Well, I wanted to save this one for the last of the three because last week we didn't do a live stream. We did the Eisner conversation instead. And one of the conversations we had is that the reason why Tynion deserves Best Writer every year that he's going to be nominated is because he constantly puts out new work, and every time it's really good. I mean, this isn't his first horror book. I feel like this kind of goes alongside a couple of other things he's written previously. But still, you open it up and you're like, this is amazing.
I'm like, wow, 100%. Who's the artist on it?
Gavin Fullerton.
Because it kind of has almost the artist on Nice House on Lakesfield, Garcia Bernal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that that's right. Martinez Bueno. I was completely wrong. It feels very much like Bueno's art on Nice House at times, but once again, the characters sound nothing like any of his other characters.
Right.
Which is like we talked about last week in our Eisners, is that James Tynion's strongest suit is that he can create a billion characters and none of them sound the same. And this book it's a married couple who is not doing well.
No.
And they are moving to a new place, and the dad is at a bar instead of actually buying the tape that he's supposed to be buying for the boxes.
Yeah, they're trying to pack up right now, and he's like, I'll go to a bar. I was sent out to buy tape, but
I'm at this bar. I bought some tape, and then it's like, it's not even right. It's painter's tape.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tell you that. He doesn't even buy box tape. Like, he doesn't even he's not paying attention enough. Yeah. And he's like at this bar. He's completely messed up, and their kid is dealing with this moving. Matt's covering his ear so we don't spoil the book. Kid's dealing with the moving. He's dealing with the parents, and what will happen. Like, the whole thing is about, like, being afraid of the monster in your closet and whether or not that is something you can ever escape. And is it, because it is James Tynion, is it an emotional thing or is it a actual physical thing?
Yes. And that's what I really like about this is the character building that they set up here. It's like, is the monster in your closet or is that monster right in front of your face?
Yeah, this is very much like, if you blended Nice House and Something That's Killing the Children into one book, this is what you would get. It's so well done. It's once again, you can't show anything else. James, we talk about this on on every new James Heinen book, whenever we do Eisner shows, James Heinen is a master class in writing.
Yeah.
A master class in writing. And this is another example of that, because we're one issue in, and I know everything about these people.
And
everything I need to know.
And you already dislike the dad.
I don't like the mom either.
You don't like either.
I don't like either of them. I completely understand their relationship dynamic. It reminds me of people I know.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. And it reminds me of people I don't know and people I don't want to be. And it reminds me of situations I've been in, like as a kid. I mean, I have divorced parents, and these are parents who are together, obviously, but I have parents who fought a lot when I was a kid, and I was afraid of things. And I wrote into one of my books that the girl hides in her closet whenever she can't handle anything. And she talks about, like, the world is small in your closet, and, like, everything is big outside, but when you're in your closet, you can see, like, all of the dimensions of the room, and you can, like, hold everything into that space, and you can kind of decipher the whole problem and deal with it. And James Heinen is kind of like, hey, the closet is also that unresolved situation, and it's that whole, what do I do with it, and what is it, and who am I, and what is this monster, and this is the whole beast of things that we do not know, because the closet could be a million things, and it uses it in the complete opposite capacity. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what you do with this, because you're James Heinen and you're going to do great. And I'm already like, just throw away that whole thing where I wrote that about the closet, because the whole thing I wrote about the closet is crap now, because James Heinen is going to make a whole book about a closet that's going to be phenomenal. Seriously, if you're fans of Something That's Killing the Children, you're fans of Department of Truth, you're fans of Wind, Nice House, anything James Heinen does, I promise you this is going to be a book that you love, because it's so freaking good.
I also like that he plays. I want him to continue to always play in the horror genre.
He's so good in the horror genre.
Do whatever you want. Always have a horror book constantly on rotation, because you are really great at it.
Yes. Matt, go.
We have copies of Batman Ninja Turtles Volume 1 from James Tynion.
Ooh.
If you missed it, those are coming in.
Okay.
They're just ordered. They did a new printing of it. A lot of us missed that. Right.
That's how I met Anthony. Shout out to my boy Anthony.
Reading that series. But I cannot... Volume 1's been out of print now since Something's Killing the Children started. And it's finally back, and they're coming in. So if you want one, let us know.
Yes. You have to let me know, because they'll be gone in the same day.
Yes.
Batman Ninja Turtles, Tynion. That's kind of like the first book that people started registering Tynion's name on its own capacity.
That was the first book that, like, I was excited to meet him at Fan Expo.
And Anthony, who, has been a huge friend of ours and everything, he came into our store because he wanted, the store I was working at the time, not Bat City, but the store I was working at the time, because he wanted to find out if we had any of those issues. And that's actually how I met him, and he became the Killmonger that we used for events for that store. And to this day, he ended up working with Matt, becoming like one of our best friends. He's been a huge part of our lives ever since then, and it all started because of James Tynion's Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So if I'm ever gonna, vote for James Tynion for things, that's gonna be like, hey, not only did you give me great books, but you also gave me one of my best friends of all time.
There you go.
So, thanks, James Tynion. We got a lot of books in stock. Ram said he'd like to read that Batman TMNT crossover. We got a lot of books that are still in stock over the last 2 weeks, so we're going to fly through this hella fast. First up is the Collector Unit Sum Number 751? 731. Issue 2, this is from Dark Horse, is all about a time traveler. It feels very Quantum Leap. DC versus Vampires Hunters. This is a one-shot. If you have been reading DC versus Vampires, this is going to tell you who your vampire king actually is. But this follows Damian Wayne's story. The Phalanx, which is by Nathan... Phalanx, thank you. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. This is a guy who was like, hey, I've always wanted to work, this is Jonathan Luna, who always wanted to work for Image when he was a kid, telling his story of if he would have been a part of Image back in 1992. Brian Michael Bendis is The Pearl is back. We've talked about this, his whole entire, Powers universe, all of his, big books are now being printed by Dark Horse and continuing. This is a new volume of The Pearl at Dark Horse. Image. This is the 30th anniversary celebration of Image anthology. Scotty Young has an ongoing story about his whole life as a comic creator in here, which is hilarious. If you find that, you should totally show that. This looks like the artist of Bolero, which I'm pretty sure it is.
This is...
Right? Isn't that just a Bolero? But there is an Ice Cream Man story in this issue, which is so good. If you haven't read, if you want to read an Ice Cream Man story, this is just all about a guy who makes poor choices. There's a story that has Andrea Muti art. There's a Mirka and Doffel story that goes on in every time. I just love the Scotty Young story in it because in this particular one, he's trying to entice his wife, like, to want to have sex with him in this one. And he's like, hey, like, let's have sexy time. And she's like, hey, Scotty, I'm totally into sexy time. Bring some chains. And he dresses up like Spawn to go into the thing because he's like, there you go. He recreates a Scotty Young style Spawn cover because he's like, hey, I thought you said you liked chains. And I love it. I'm sorry. I laughed way too hard at this issue.
There's a lot of really great artists in this book.
Absolutely.
A lot of great creatives.
Also, congratulations to Image on 30 years of the business.
You're
That's
doing great.
insane. Yeah. Speaking of Image, what's the furthest place from here? Issue 6. Tyler Boss, Matthew Rosenberg, you're both wonderful humans, and I love you.
That's the end of the arc.
Is it? I don't know if it is or not because nothing ever feels like an ending in a Tyler Boston Matthew Rosenberg story. Rogue Sun, issue 4. 4. This is part of your Radiant Black universe, and that's incredible to say that we already have a universe of Radiant Black stories. Wolvenheart, issue 13 from Mad Cave. I love you, Wolvenheart, even if it's just me and you forever. Land of the Living Gods, issue 4. This is a phenomenal story from Aftershock that people are sleeping on. A bunch of people bought issue 1 because it was spec'd on. If you didn't actually stop and read the story, you're missing out on an incredible story. That's an Afrofuturistic story that's fantastic. Headless, issue 3 from Scout. This is what if the Headless Horseman took over the body of a child, a teenager, and he's like having to fight against all this stuff. There's a volume 1 that was all done digitally, and this is volume 2, but if you didn't read volume 1, you'll still keep going. This is Mesopotamian... or this is Mesoamerica. Sorry, not Mesopotamian. Mesoamerican. This is all like Aztec, Mayan, like gods kind of situation. I'm gonna save these two.
This is number 2 of volume 2.
Volume 2. Yeah. Saga issue 59. This is, if you're used to the intensity of Saga, this is one of those issues. This is one of those issues that makes you go, God damn it, Saga. Ghost Rider issue 3 with that awesome... Is this Peach Momoko? This is not. This is a cover A. There's a fantastic Peach Momoko cover I might be out of.
Percy.
Yeah, Benjamin Percy writing Ghost Rider.
It's really
Which
good.
Ghost Rider is it, though?
It's Johnny Blaze.
It's Johnny Blaze.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
Ram V's Carnage is on issue 3 as well. Which, if I'm going to read Carnage, giving Ram V the title is definitely the way to make me want to read Carnage. Superman's Action Annual. I love this cover. It is a super cool cover. Yeah.
That's Frank.
It's Frank. Duh. I said I loved it. That should have been key number 1. So look.
You love a lot of cover artists.
That's true. Speaking of, Peach Momoko did Strange cover 3. I never got to read it. Once again, for those of you watching on Facebook who are like in the area, if you have a copy of Strange number 1 with the Clea as Strange, I never got to read it because you all bought our copies. So if you want to bring one back for me to read, I will love you forever. I just want to read it. Miles Morales, issue 38. I just love you. And this is like a big reveal of new stuff going on in Miles Morales. Star Wars Darth Vader, issue 22, I believe, which... Keep going. That's awesome. Knights of X, issue 2. X-Men House of 92, issue 2. This is what if the X-Men 92 cartoon was like in the Krakoa world.
Weird.
Yeah. Black Panther, issue 6. Captain Marvel, issue 38. I think we're supposed to be getting a new, like, binary character soon from Captain Marvel. Loaded Bible, issue 4. This is my last copy, so I can't believe I actually brought it out to show you, but Justice League Road to Dark Crisis number 1. which Dark Crisis launches this week.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Sweet.
These are some of these are from last week, like Adventure Man number 9. Kudos to you, Matt Fraction, for being awesome.
It's Terry Dodson cover.
Aquaman issue 4, Batman Fortress issue 1, Batman Beyond the White Knight book 3, which actually this week there is a director's edition or not a director's edition, but a super edition or something like that of Batman White Knight, which is issue 1, issue 2 together.
Oh, okay.
So if you missed issue 1, which a lot of people did, it's a way to get both 1 and 2. Deathstroke Inc. number 9. I'm only here for this Ravager cover. I want to read the series. I'm super behind, but this Derek Chu Ravager cover is all I needed in my life to make me remember that I was sucking at not reading that series. Devil's Reign Omega. This is finally the wrap-up before we go back into it. Chip Zdarsky, Tedesco, Daredevil. Disturbed, Dark Messiah.
Like the band Disturbed?
Yeah, this band Disturbed. I totally forgot to grab a copy for us to read. I'm sorry, I failed you.
Will you set that over in your reading
I know.
pile?
I'm sorry. I failed you, Phil. But
Disturbed was one of my favorite live performances.
I'm so
Isn't that
sorry
crazy?
I failed you.
Not a huge fan of the band, but
Godzilla vs. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 3, Harbinger issue 8, which the variant cover was a picture of Faith. Hellboy and the RPD, Knights of the Cyclops.
yeah.
Philadelphia issue 22, which we are building towards the end of Philadelphia, and the books just keep getting cooler and cooler. Monstrous issue 40.
Crazy Monstrous is still going on.
I know.
40 issues.
Moon Knight
insane.
issue 11. Judd McKay, you just cranking this out. Robin issue 14 with the Simone DeMeo beautiful cover. Radiant Red issue 3. Savage Spider-Man issue 3. I'm getting ahead of you. I'll slow down. Spider-Man 2099 Exodus, which was the first appearance of Winter Soldier 2099. That is
Great.
Yeah. The Swamp Thing issue 13. This is the AAPI. Did you see this cover?
I did that.
That's the
Ooh.
Yeah. See, I figured I'd slow him down for a second by looking at that. Look at that beautiful thing. The Swamp Thing covers have been the best covers DC has had, hands down. Like those cover Bs especially. Task Force Z issue 8 from Matthew Rosenberg. I've been told I'm an idiot for not reading this on a weekly basis, and I need to catch up. Teen Titans Academy issue 15. Transformer Wars End issue 4. Unnatural returns with Blue Blood, and I have a newfound love for Mirka and Dolpho this year, so I feel like
Did you read Unnatural the first time?
No, but I'm a huge fan of Sweet Paprika, so I feel like I missed out on all the Mirka and Dolpho of the world. Walking Dead issue Deluxe issue 40. Super Freaks issue, like a one shot actually, celebrating the 30 years of Image. A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance issue 8. Follow Me Into Darkness, which is volume 2 of the Darkness series from Behemoth. Firepower issue 21. Cannot believe that is still going. I was like, I thought it was going to be 21. I fell so far behind, and it was good. It was good, but I can't believe I fell that far behind so fast.
What if it's his next Walking Dead?
Honestly and truthfully, the first two arcs of Firepower were so good. I regret falling behind, but I felt like after arc 2, I was like, after we hit like issue 12, I was like, oh, this is kind of coming to an end. So like, I'll just wait for it to get to the end, and now we're on 21. And so I was like, okay, you were not coming to an end. My bad. I'm sorry for mistaking where you were going with this. Yeah. Alien, issue 12, with some crazy covers on issue 12. Hardware, issue 6 for those Milestone comics. Shadow War Omega, issue 1, which is actually the end of the Shadow War. And then James Tynion would like to wrap up our books in stock with Nice House on the Lake, book 9. I'm not allowed to talk about it because Matt didn't read it. So I'm just going to tell you that it came out. And then something is... can I take that back? Eisner nominated Nice House on the Lake, issue 9, I should have said. And then something is also Eisner James Tynion was nominated for Best Writer of Something That's Killing the Children. This is issue 23, which is honestly and truthfully why we both ended up voting for James Tynion as the best writer in our show last week, because the fact that Something Is Killing the Children continues to expand and just get better and better is just a great testament to James Tynion. Mm-hmm. And that issue, oh my gosh, we're just gonna keep going. We're just gonna keep building out on Something That's Killing Children. It's just gonna keep getting better and better every week. We've got some trades in stock to talk about, some new ones, some old ones. I guess I'll save the new ones for the end. We'll talk about the ones that came in last week and some that are still in stock and things like that. First up for our trades, these came in, I think this came in last week. This is the King Spawn trade. This is volume 1 of King Spawn, which I can't believe we're already at a whole volume of King Spawn, but here it is. It exists. Also knighted Greg Horwitz.
Yeah, that's where, okay.
There we go.
I know I've seen that name recently.
Greg Horwitz with Knighted from AWA. I love this book. This is What If You Mixed Batman and the Santa Claus. This was the best.
The Tim Allen movie.
The Tim Allen movie, The Santa Claus. Like you killed the Batman and you put on the suit and now you have to take over as Batman forever. Except it's not a comedy in any way, shape, or form. This is the lovable loser becoming the Batman, essentially. I love this book. It's an AWA book, so it is what, Phil?
$9.99.
$9.99 for the whole first volume. You should read it. I think that might be my last copy.
Oh, okay.
I will order more if I can. Things still in stock, I guess I should say. My Bad from Ahoy Comics and the great and wonderful Mark Russell.
Yes, if you want to see superhero parodies written by somebody who is just wonderful at writing comics, this is the one, Mark Russell.
Yes.
And it's Ahoy. I feel like Ahoy is his home.
It is perfect for him.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well,
not all robots is at AWA Aftershock,
so
and that is a beautiful book, and I can't wait for volume 2. But
Eisner nominated, not all robots.
2-time Eisner nominated, not all robots. That has 2 Eisner nominations because that series is fucking great.
Yes, it is.
I love you, Mark Russell. Write whatever you want, I will buy it. But
always and forever.
If you have not read Second Coming at Ahoy, it's the best Mark Russell book of all time. You should read it. We talked about By the Horns. This is volume 1. It is a massive. It's 8 issues. It's fantastic.
Big book.
It's so much fun, and I love this main character. She's great. And then we talked about Saga being back this week. If you haven't ever read Saga, for $10, you can jump in on
first
Saga.
5 issues, $10. Great way. That's how I got into it. I came on after the single issues were coming out. I think it was an issue like 18 to 20 when I came on. I
also have the compendium. That's the first 54 issues, which is what I read.
That thing is ginormous.
Yes. Also, finally, I cannot say that with enough emphasis, back in stock, is the Vision and Scarlet Witch Omnibus. This is both of the Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries, so the 4-part series and then the 12-part series, plus the West Coast Avengers series, which if you're not specking on West Coast Avengers, you're not paying attention to your MCU. Just saying, spec on your West Coast Avengers now. You're going to regret it if you don't. This is, think about it. We got White Vision, we got Wanda, we got Moon Knight, we got, thank you. We've had Bad Wonka. But you have your Hawkeye, you have your Bobby, you've got all of your you've got She-Hulk on her way, you've got literally everybody who's ever had a little box on the West Coast Avengers, plus all of the young Avengers we've introduced so far have also served as West Coast Avengers at some point. So what you do, just saying, is you bring in all of your adult West Coast Avengers to train your young Avengers who are also West Coast Avengers.
There you go.
And then it leaves room for you to have Daredevil and the Defenders in New York because all your actual West Coast Avengers are out there. And if you notice, Kevin Feige said there will be no more Avengers movies, but Avengers Campus is on the West Coast at Disneyland, and only at Disneyland. If you know anything about Disney, their whole goal is to drive you to the theme parks. So, West Coast Avengers. You should be specking on that. That's your tip from the person who buys comics and speculates more than anybody in the world, a comic book store owner. There you go.
But if you're not specking and you just want to read stuff about the Scarlet Witch and Vision,
this is it. This is fantastic. Also, if you watch WandaVision, you'll see all the great things like glamour and illusion are in that book series. So if you want to know where their little magician names came for their magic show, glamour and illusion are actually characters in The Vision and the Scarlet Witch. You should read it. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite things of all time. It's why I've been obsessed with Scarlet Witch since I was a kid. New this week, We Only Find Them When They're Dead, Volume 2. Do you want to just open that and show them? Simone DeMeo being better than all of us on art. We can't compete.
also it's Al Ewing writing the story, so
Al Ewing writing, Simone DeMeo trying to show us that art is masterful.
yeah.
Here you go. You should read this. Volume 2. Last week, we didn't have a show about new comics, but Eat the Rich came out.
Nice.
This is the complete series from Boom Comics. This is kind of what if we took Get Out and we made it about marrying into a rich family in the Hamptons.
Great book.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. So good. How much is that for that whole volume?
$20.
$20. Well, worth it.
Worth it.
And if you come in here, you get that nice little 10% off all trade paperbacks and graphic novels.
Speaking of 10% off trade paperbacks and graphic novels, Phil, don't steal this, but we have rock stars signed by Megan Hutchinson Cates. What?
Woo! Nice.
I'm just going to throw that out there. Megan Hutchinson stopped by.
I won't even hold it. I won't even touch it.
Signed it. It is signed. If you need your copy, the complete series of Rockstars. So this is both volumes of Rockstars reprinted and collected by Vault Comics. Originally, Rockstars was an Image title. Never finished. Vault picked up the whole thing and actually printed all of it. So you can get both volumes of it. Joe Harris, Megan Hutchinson Cates, and they are signed by Megan. There's a limited amount of them. They are signed. Megan is the greatest human on the planet. I love her so much. She's my best friend. I'm not biased at all. But they are signed. There are also a couple of the 616 variants now in the store signed by Megan. So if you stop by within the right time frame, you might get a couple of 616 variants signed by Megan as well. Shout out to Megan. I love you. You're the best. Those are our trades and things in stock. We've got some comic book news. Moderate comic book news. Creepshow, Skybound, bought Creepshow, comic books coming out from Creepshow by Skybound.
Really?
Really. So we are going to see some Creepshow comics coming from Skybound. Really,
Skybound's not really the publisher I would have expected that from.
No, but here we are.
You know,
it's like they don't have Walking Dead anymore, so they don't really have a horror thing other than Redneck, kind of, sort of adjacent to horror on their thing. I don't feel like Redneck is horror, even though it is vampires.
I just feel like
Paranormal.
I feel like Skybound was never created to do that kind of thing.
And yet here we are.
Yeah.
And they are. So,
interesting.
Really curious. Skybound has bought Creepshow. We'll be doing Creepshow comics. But the biggest news, and I had other little news, but I'm just going to skip right to the biggest news. Joe Quesada stepping down from Marvel this week. Mm-hmm. Now, you can save those oohs because it's about to get interesting because Joe Quesada Marvel posted Joe Quesada is retiring from Marvel.
Yes.
However, / whatever you want to say, I follow Joe Quesada on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, Joe Quesada said, "Hey, I'm excited to announce my new position as writer / editor / person at to be announced soon. I can't say anything because I'm not allowed to yet." So, Joe Quesada not retiring. Joe Quesada moving on to his own imprint, to another imprint, to another comic publisher. We don't know, but Joe Quesada is moving somewhere to be determined, but has left Marvel. Mm-hmm. So, who's stepping in at Marvel? What's happening?
Was he editor-in-chief at Marvel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Managing editor?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
For like 8 years?
A long time.
Yeah.
Like, so much so that Stan even texted me and was like, did you guys hear that Joe Quesada is leaving Marvel? And I was like, wow, this is big news.
It was a good chunk of my Twitter feed one day was just Joe Quesada conversation.
So Joe Quesada has left Marvel and will be going somewhere else. And the thing is that the LinkedIn post isn't what's going around. Everything is just Joe Quesada's leaving Marvel.
Of course, yeah. Because Marvel's they're going to run that narrative.
Yeah, so I'm curious what Joe Quesada is actually doing if that's what Joe Quesada has posted. I was like, I'm curious because I don't know. I know Axel was at Marvel for a long time and left, so I don't know if Axel left pre-Joe, but the AWA person that was in charge, as CEO also left this week. So if Axel and Joe are still friends, is Joe moving to go with Axel and AWA?
Wow.
Who knows? Is he going to pull a Dan DiDio and start his own publishing company with somebody like Frank Miller, like Dan DiDio did? Is he going to work with somebody else and actually writing again? Who knows? I don't know nothing. I literally don't know nothing, and I have been trying very hard to tap all of my resources to find something. And I know nothing, but I can't wait to find out. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here on LinkedIn every day until Joe Quesada actually makes an announcement. I was like, is there an announcement today? I refreshed 4 times Joe Quesada's feed, waiting. I don't know, but
I think it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I like when these big companies make these kind of shakeups.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a retiring or whatever, I think it's going to be nice. You're going to bring in some new perspective to that role at Marvel. So, maybe we'll see a few changes made. For instance, maybe stop giving so many of these characters just miniseries.
Well, they're doing that on purpose, and I as a comic book store person, actually disagree with you. Because they are giving a lot of these characters miniseries until their movies come out. And then they're putting them into full series. Yeah. And the reason why is it's actually super duper helpful for us as comic store owners. Because people come in and they're like, hey, I just watched this movie and I want to get to know this character. But these are people who don't buy comics regularly. So they're not going to keep coming back. So we can say, hey, here's all 5 issues of this book. You'll get to know the whole character. Or here's a one unconnected to really anything book. You can pick it up. So I actually love the miniseries concept that Marvel is doing for that reason, because it is geared towards all the people who are learning about these characters for the first time. And if you look at it, it's Shang-Chi, it was Hawkeye. It was all these characters who have had movies recently. Silk, they're doing that, and that is because of Sony, because Sony owns all the Spider-Man properties. Okay. And so they're trying not to build Silk into the whole Marvel comic continuity, because Sony has it, and they can't bring them into the MCU. But it is all geared towards, there's so many new comic fans, and it's hey, if a new comic book fan wanders into a comic book store, they're not going to know that they have to come back monthly, and it's really, it takes, honestly and truthfully, 4 visits from a customer before we can even actually approach the conversation of starting a subscription, because they don't know what that means.
Right.
And so we have to, wait until we know that they're going to come in that many times for the same book before we even ask, and that's a miniseries. That's the whole thing. Yeah. So at that point, it's not even, it's to start for the next thing. And so I like the Mooney series because it does help you draw that new comic book fan in. And say hey, you can learn everything you want to know about that character within these 5 issues. And if you want to keep going, Shang-Chi, the movie was delayed, so they did 2 5-issue miniseries, and now he's in an ongoing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And so it's okay, Hawkeye had a 5-issue miniseries while the show was going on. And so it's do those things. Miss Marvel had a 5-issue miniseries leading up to the announcement of the show. I like that. I hope that they do another Miss Marvel series. Moon Girl is already about to get a series that connects her to all the different characters in the MCU. It's literally Moon Girls and Miles is the first one, and then it's Moon Girl and the Avengers, and Moon Girl and this person, and it's just Moon Girl and how she connects to everybody, which I did. My mom sent me an article last night, and I felt bad because she was like, hey, I found this article that's the top 10 smartest comic book people ever, and I was like, well, first of all, Lunella's not on there, so this list is wrong. And it had Amadeus Cho at the bottom of the list, and I was like, well, your list that you sent me is completely inaccurate, and we need to talk about this list.
Okay, but so going back to the Silk thing, isn't Miles Sony?
Miles
Mhm.
is technically Sony too, but Miles is already has been tested ongoing. I would love a Silk ongoing, and
I think that's my only problem. Is
I
no
think
Silk
that
ongoing.
they've done 2 miniseries, so I would be interested to see if they do the same thing with Shang-Chi, where it was 2 short series and then they did a full series. But they are also testing to see if you buy them, people at home watching this.
Yeah.
And that is the other thing is like, do you buy it past 4? And that is a huge thing for comic book stores in general because we're ordering issue 3 before issue 1 comes out.
Right.
Which is the numbers that Marvel goes off of. A lot of people are like, I'm gonna not buy issue 3 and Marvel's gonna know that I hated this book. They're not. I hate to break that to you because they go off of the numbers that we buy. And which goes off of what sold for issue 1 only by the time we buy issue 3. Sometimes not even issue 1. I've ordered a lot of issue 3s when issue 1 hasn't even come out. And so it's not actually going off of you saying, I hate this book, I'm not going to buy it. What I get is you hate this book, and so I'm not buying 4 and 5. And so, or 5 and 6. So why do you get miniseries? Because you told me as a comic store owner at issue 3 that you hated it. And I stopped buying for 5 and 6. So you only get a 5-part series because they think that's as long as you're going to stick with that character. Because I bought 1 through 3 before you ever even bought issue 1. So that's another big part of this mini-series thing is the Marvel numbers go off of what we buy. Right. We are buying books 1 month out. Off of, I already ordered books for July 6th today. It's June 5th. I ordered books for July 6th today. So, and tomorrow I'm going to order books for July 7th. And because I'm going to order all my Marvel and Diamond and it's going to be for that, same week. I guess it's still July 6th. But, yeah, I'm going to order books for July 6th tomorrow as well, if I haven't already, for some of these Marvel, IDW, and all those kinds of things. So all these books that you're, not getting until you act on July 6th with your opinion, I already ordered it from Marvel.
Right.
So I already ordered it from DC. I already ordered it from Scout. I already ordered it from SourcePoint. So they're going off of those numbers. They don't know what you bought in the store. They have no idea what you bought in the store. DC literally told me people like Zatanna when I said, can we have more Zatanna books? Because they have no idea, because they only know what I bought as a comic store retailer. Right. They don't know what you bought, unless I tell them. So, what you buy July 6th is going to impact our sales for issue 6. So, they're going to make you a miniseries of 5 issues, because as far as they know, you only buy 5 issues, because I already ordered 5 issues before you ever got to 6. Oh. And there's the answer to your question.
All right.
Long story short.
Joe Quesada's out at Marvel.
Joe Quesada's...
I looked up, it was also 22 years. He became editor-in-chief in 2000.
2000? Good Lord. Congratulations, Joe Quesada.
What a career.
Yeah. And on that said, congratulations, Joe Quesada. That is an incredible history at Marvel. We appreciate everything you did. Marvel is great right now. I hope that they can maintain a lot of the things that you're doing. And I hope that they can find the places that they need to improve. And good luck to whoever fills those giant footsteps that you've set forth. And good luck at whatever you do next. I can't wait to see what it is. Seriously, I am going to stalk your LinkedIn until I find out. That said, books coming out this week. We have Batman 124, the last issue before Chip Zdarsky takes over.
Did you see the little trailer?
No, I didn't watch. I don't watch trailers. What the hell?
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I don't mind comic book trailers. It's just movies. I don't care about the comic book trailers.
Yeah, no, it's just comic book trailers.
That was a total joke.
I'm done talking for the night.
My
night's over.
Was it good? Tell them about it. I don't care. I honestly don't care.
No, I mean, it's just a little bit of, what they showed a little bit of the art. My only concern is that they showed the 3 Jokers. And I really don't want a Joker. And I even commented that on Chip Zdarsky's post where I was like, dude, please don't do the Joker. Any other villain.
We have so many.
Do not do the Joker.
Wait, so you said after they showed you, they put the Joker in the trailer, hey, please don't do the thing you're already doing.
Yeah.
They showed other villains too.
Right, you
just
can cut
it now.
Cut it now. We don't need the Joker. We're over it. Move on.
Yeah.
Move on. Thor 26 is also coming out. Dark Knights of Steel issue 7. I'm very excited. That's not right. That's not what I wrote down at all. Venom number 8. Dark Crisis number 1 is finally out. Marauders number 3. Legion of X number 2. I'm very excited about this. G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy number 1 drops this week.
Whoa.
I've already read it, and I'm so in love with the series.
Sweet.
Twig issue 2. What?
Nice.
The DC Pride anthology is coming out, and I would like to report, thanks to all of the retailers' complaints, the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy variant is no longer a 1 in 25 and is available. If you need it, let me know. Aquaman Andromeda number 1. Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor number 1 is out. Monkey Prince number 5 is out, and I'm really mentioning that solely because it is a Jaws homage cover. Also, I just love Jeannie Moon Lang.
That's awesome.
Time Before Time. We talked about Image Books for your surprise. They're still going. Time Before Time, issue 13 is coming out. I thought that was going to be a mini-series. Here we are, 13 issues in. Marvel Fortnite Zero War. Don't ever tell me Marvel doesn't do the same things DC does, because they both had a partnership with Fortnite. One was called 0 Point and the other was called Zero War. So seriously, stop telling me that there's any difference between the two.
What if Fortnite is what brings DC and Marvel back together?
Wouldn't it be beautiful? I don't know how. I think that's great. I love it. You know? That's not the cover. That was last year. Multiversity Teen Justice issue 1. Nubia, Queen of the Amazons number 1. Everybody was like so mad that Nubia was like gonna end, and I was like, no, hold your horses, it's not happening. Guess what? It's not. Nubia, Queen of the Amazons number 1 is out this week. That Texas Blood issue 14. Finally, since Christmas, this is our first issue since Christmas of That Texas Blood. Dogs of London issue 2 finally out. We Live, Age of the Paladins, issue 3 is out. Last Spot Standing, our Transformers version of Last Ronin, issue 2 is out. Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer number 2 is out. Where Starships Go to Die from Aftershock, issue 1 is out. Astronaut Down.
What's it called?
Where Starships Go to Die.
I'm already sold.
Astronaut Down, which is also, I believe, from Aftershock, is out. Skybound's After School number 1, which is What If an After School Special Went Really Wrong, is out. Quest Aside, issue 2 is finally out. Heavy Metal Drummer is back this week. Metal Society number 2. The Ward, issue 1 is out. Dark Beach number 3 is out. Finally, ETER number 2 is out from AWA Upshot. We sold out of that issue, and I have been waiting for number 2. It's finally here. Potions Inc. from Mad Kid, which I have been waiting for because I've seen the ash can for that. It's fantastic. Issue 1 is out. Usher of the Dead volume 4, or issue 4 is out, and Blind Alley number 2 from Behemoth is also out. This is going to be a great freaking week for comic books. Expect Phil and I to have everything in our picks of the week next week.
There's going to be a lot of picks of the week.
There's going to be a lot of picks of the week. Yeah. Just accept that now. We have. You should too. Because it's going to be a good week. Yeah. Other than that, do I have anything else? Do you have any signings that people need to turn in for this week? No CGC signings due now?
Until like June 24th.
June 24th. What's June 24th?
Howard Shaken.
Woo!
And Jerry
Hall
Conway.
of Fame.
Hall of Fame. Eisner Hall of Fame nominee Howard Shaken. And what was the other one?
Jerry Conway.
Jerry Conway.
Also, wasn't he one?
Death of Gwen Stacy.
Yes,
Introduction of Swamp Thing.
Did I send my Death of Gwen Stacy in for that? Thanks, baby. I love you.
You're welcome.
I do love you. Other than that, cool. So those are your upcoming things. You've got until June 24th. Is that what you just said? Sweet. June 24th for Howard Shaken and Jerry Conway.
Which really get them here by a week from Friday, the 17th.
The June 17th is when you need to turn in anything for Howard Shaken and Jerry Conway to Matt. Those are the only things that Matt is available for cleaning and pressing. People keep asking if Matt is available for cleaning and pressing. Right now, he is only available for CGC signings. Other than that, if you are still in the queue for cleaning and pressing, Matt is powering through like an amazing god of cleaning and pressing that he is. CGC is doing a great job.
It's like the Michael Jordan of
cleaning and pressing. Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, either one works. I don't care. Either one is a talented masterclass in existing on the earth. I mean, I'd rather look at Michael B. Jordan every day, all day. Like
Fantastic Four, all day.
Oh my God, that is great. You know, the Human Torch just continues to be an incredibly hot human being that I love to appreciate. Mm-hmm.
But it's too slow.
That said, guys, we will see you this Wednesday in store for New Comic Book Day. There's going to be a lot of new comics, obviously, that Phil and I are both really excited about. So come in and talk to us about them. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you here next Sunday or throughout the week on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, thanks so much for tuning in live and commenting throughout the way. Thanks for winding down your weekend with us. I am Small Fresh Shann. This is Wednesday Phil, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Keymaster Nigel is throwing in a bye.
Bye.
Bye.